Ah. Where's, Hello? I think we're here.
Yep.
That's not me. I'm trying to find you. Where are you at? That's not it. Where is it? Where are you at? I'm trying to find your thing. For some reason, your thing isn't loading for me.
Huh.
Hold on. Ah.
Mm.
Where's your thing at?
Could just be the reactive software's being stupid again.
Hmm. Let me try something. Hold on. Yeah, it's not showing me for some weird reason. Why is it not showing you? Ugh. Yeah, it's not it, but I don't know why it's not showing you. Hold on. I can make do with. I'll make a. I'll just add you in manually for now.
Okay.
Here we go. That'll work for now.
Alright.
Scuffness, am I right, folks? Let's make you a little bit bigger. There we go. There we go. Okay. You can see my stream, right? Oh wait.
1 second.
Oh wait. I need to get
Yeah,
back in. Sorry.
yeah, I think you stopped the screen sharing.
Oh yeah, I had to because Discord's being Discord.
Okay. No. Yeah.
Okay.
Alright.
Make sure the blanket. I'll move the blanket up a bit over you. So there we go. I just want to readjust the blanket, but there we go. We don't need it right now. Scuffness, am I right, folks? But anyways, hello everybody! Welcome back to more of Our Life Beginnings and Always. Yes, we are back. I apologize for the lack of streams in the last week. Stuff's happened, and I've been watching the new Tempest Voice.
But I'm stuff.
What?
No, the joke is, but I'm stuff. Anyways.
B. Hello everyone. Welcome in. For those who don't know me, hello. I am Susan, and I'm a Sakura Arctic Fox. And this is my boyfriend, Fenrir.
Hello.
So, we're going to be continuing on with Our Life Beginnings and Always. For those of you who don't know what this game is, basically, Our Life is a visual novel with a ton of choices that you can make, and it's basically about growing up with your neighbor Cove. And, well, we're going to be continuing on today. Um, I'm not sure how long we'll be going today. We might do maybe 3 stories, maybe 4 if I feel like it, but we'll see when we get there. So,
Mm-hmm.
you ready to go for the first story?
Yeah, let's get into it. Because this is the last of the main ones before we get into the DLC.
Yeah. Alright. Well then, I hope you guys are ready. Get comfy, get a drink, get a snack, and be ready to enjoy the stories. It's a go. Like a lazy cat, you stretched your arms above your head and yawned, blinking your eyes sleepily. The day was warm and pleasant, and you were lounging on the couch in the living room, finding it difficult to do much in that moment. Your moms and Lizzie had gone out shopping, looking for some new items for your sister to take back and decorate her college dorm with. They'd asked if you wanted to go with them, but you declined. For you, today was all about relaxation. Cove had dropped by to spend some time with you, content to join in with doing nothing. The two of you had been chatting idly as you lazed around, talking about the other things you had planned for the summer. Um, Cuddling. He had an arm loosely slung around your shoulders and his head dipped down against you while you were nestled against his side, enjoying the comfort of his company. The day dragged on and you found yourselves yawning more and more often between conversations. You had almost dozed off completely when suddenly a buzz rang out, disturbing the silence. Your phone was on its charger in the kitchen, so it couldn't have been that. Cole pulled out his own phone from his back pocket and checked the screen. His movement had jostled you, so you tried to readjust your position to get it right again.
Oh. Oh, it's my mom.
After leaning forward and setting the phone on the coffee table in front of him, Cole hit the speaker button.
Hey, what's up? Susan's here too.
Hi.
Hi, Cole. Hello, Susan.
She barely looks any different.
Hi. Cole, baby. I wanted to ask you if you had a plan for all your junk. Cole made a small outraged rumble, giving you a sidelong glance.
It's not junk, it's important.
Mm-hmm. Though you couldn't see, you could tell by the sound of her voice that Kyra was smiling.
Aha.
But is that a yes or no about the plan? He looked over at you, his mouth pulled into a tight smile.
I'm still thinking about it. Susan? I'm gonna take the phone off speaker so me and Mom can go over this. It'll be quick.
Cove carefully moved you off of him and took the phone from the table before pushing himself to his feet. He hit the speaker button again to turn it off and continued the conversation with his mom as he headed towards the door. The lock clicked behind him as he exited the house, and you sank back onto the cushions, idly trying to decide what to do next. After electing to grab your own phone from its charger, you resumed your position on the couch, tapping away at the screen. Your mind drifted away from thoughts of Cove and his phone call with all the many ways your device could distract you. It was an effective way to kill time, and you managed to do various little things when the door opened again and Cove returned. He gave you a smile as he approached you, so you figured the conversation couldn't have gone too bad. You watched as Cole strolled over to where you were sitting. He crossed his arm against the top corners of the couch, resting on them while bending forward to lightly kiss the top of your head.
Hey.
Hey, I'm back.
Kiss! He met you with a quick peck before pulling back quickly, a flush of pink staining his cheeks. Is everything okay?
That's...
Everything's fine, just...
He turned his head suddenly, running a hand through his hair and letting out an exasperated breath. You seemed nervous, but you couldn't imagine why.
fine.
Yeah, it's fine. Not anything to worry about.
You raised an eyebrow at his tone, moving your head to the side to try and meet his eye. That doesn't explain what's going on. He shrugged and gave you a tight smile, trying to play whatever it actually was off as unimportant.
There's nothing going on, just stuff I can deal with later, some other time.
He was transparent, avoiding the truth, and you stared back at him seriously, an indication that you weren't going to ignore what he was doing. Eventually, he broke beneath your stare, hanging his head in his hands and groaning.
I need to make another trip to my mom's place. There's some stuff out there that I'm gonna use, so I'll have to go pick it up. It wouldn't make sense to ship it, and I couldn't bring the stuff back with me last time, since I flew.
Oh. Suddenly you understood what the phone conversation had been about. Cole was going to drive to his mom's house in Nevada. When will you go?
Mom thinks it'd be best to do it now while I'm still kind of free, but
Cove pouted, giving you an unhappy look, and you could see the prospect of was already taking a toll on him.
I don't want to. I was just there, and for even longer than usual. Why do I have to leave right now when it's our last summer like this?
Hmm. Thought it was cute he wanted to stay. Showed how much he appreciated being here and spending time with you. Looking up again, you met his bright aquamarine eyes, finding a sad smile tugging on his lips.
Oh,
Oh,
Suddenly his eyebrows jumped and his eyes lit up like a lamp.
hey, you could come with me.
What?
You should come with me. I mean, I get that the two of us live next door to each other and my mom lives in another state. My trips there are usually to spend time with her, just the two of us. But this time it won't be like that. All I'm gonna do is drive over, stay for a night, and then pack up the car in the morning and turn around again. Most of the time we'll be spent in the car, so it'd be good to have another person there. Plus, you'd have the chance to see my mom again and her place. Maybe we could even find something cool to break at on the way.
You couldn't stop yourself from laughing at his enthusiasm. He blushed a little, reining himself in.
please.
I just feel like it could be fun. Please, could you think about it?
I want to go. A road trip sounds fun. I'll have to let my moms know, but as long as we got nothing else important on the days we pick, then there's no reason I wouldn't be able to go. He grinned from ear to ear, thrilled by the news. He put both his hands on your cheeks, kissing your face all over, having to bend down far to do so, but he didn't mind it a bit. Then he wrapped his arms around your neck, letting out a happy sigh.
I'm so glad.
I'm so glad. This is so great. I'll call my mom back and let her know right now.
You spent some time together going over your schedules and making plans for when you can take the trip. You need to fit in around both of your work schedules, which took a bit of doing, but it came together in the end. Luckily, it was only a 2-day trip, so finding a couple free days in a row wasn't impossible. It wasn't long before the dates were finally set and all the plans were made. I was excited. A short trip sounds like the perfect way to spend some time. You could listen to music, eat snacks, and enjoy the open road. No matter what your thoughts about things, the morning when you were due to leave arrived. Wait a minute, I just realized something.
Oh, what's up?
I don't have it with me. Hold on. There's something I'm missing.
Wait,
1 second.
browser there.
There we go. I needed my boy. You guys can't see it. You guys can't see it, but I had to put on my Altair mouse clicker. I had to.
Oh.
I needed my boy with me. It was cooler than usual, the sun barely peeking over the tops of the houses. You stood outside your house on the footpath near the road, waiting for Cove. You were feeling refreshed after a good night's sleep and an early wake up. With your travel bag clutched in one hand, you watched as Cove finished packing up his car. He had organized all sorts of things, water bottles, snacks, and who knows what else. Cove insisted he had everything under control and didn't need help. At least he could rest easy, knowing that it was all taken care of. As you waited, you glanced over Cove's car. You knew it well. It used to belong to Mr. Holden, and when Cove had learned to drive it, passed it to him. His dad had taken the opportunity to get a newer one. It was pretty old at this point, but had served both of them well so far. You just hoped it had enough life left in it to survive a trip as long as the one you were embarking on. The slam of a door closing made you jump. You snapped back and focused and saw Cove walking towards you. He dusted his hands off his pants and tilted his head towards the car.
Oh, that's it. Ready to go?
Yeah, I'm ready. He smiled and stepped aside, giving you space to situate your own bag where you wanted it. Once everything was safely inside, he glanced back at you.
All right.
We should get started. It's gonna be a ways to go.
Haggy.
Yeah.
You seemed surprised, but he chuckled and returned the gesture. It couldn't last for long, though. Time was of the essence. The two of you climbed into the car and buckled up. Cove in the driver's seat and you sitting shotgun. His eyes moved to you.
Thank you.
Thanks again for coming on this trip with me.
Of course, it's no problem. After checking the mirrors and starting the engine, you pulled out of the driveway and the trip began. With a small sigh, you got cozy in your seat and watched the familiar houses in your neighborhood pass by. Cole reached over to turn on the radio. A crackle of static mixed with the odd snippets of songs filled the car as he flipped through the stations. Mr. Holden's car was in good condition, but it was, well, older. There was no way to plug in a phone to play music, so the radio had to do. Eventually, he settled on top 40 stations before sitting back and resting, both hands on the wheel.
Hey, is this okay?
Yeah, it works. He smiled, happy with the answer. Time flew by, and with the scenery outside your window became more and more unfamiliar. Neither of you spoke for a good long while, but the quiet was comfortable. You had become all too used to each other's company over the years. Eventually, Cole broke the silence, clearing his throat softly before he spoke.
It's been too long since you and I have spent time with my mom. I know she still comes to the neighborhood sometimes, but it's not even once a year. I'm always going to hers. I'm happy the two of us are doing this.
Yeah, me too. But speaking of your mom and trips, remember the time she took us on that crazy drive all across town? He shook his head at the memory, his laughter clear and bright.
I remember. I kept worrying about papers and shoes while you were having a blast.
It was an amazing night. He smiled quietly to himself, clutching the wheel a little more confidently. With the crinkling of his eyebrows, a look of nostalgia crossed over Cove's features.
Mom always knew how to make things memorable.
I can't deny that. Silence slowly crept back into the space, both of you thinking back on that night and all the memories you had of it. Your elbow resting on the windowsill, you gazed out at a world that was slowly coming to life as the morning rolled on by. The sun climbed higher into the sky, forcing you to adjust the visor overhead to keep it out of your eyes.
Hey, do you mind reaching back for me?
Cole gave you a silent glance as he drove, indicating with a nod of his head and a tiny smile.
I want some chips. The salt and vinegar ones. That is terrible chip flavor.
I don't know how you can eat that.
Right?
He huffed, patiently keeping his eyes on the road.
I like them and want to eat them. You shouldn't have a problem with letting me eat since you don't even like it.
Stretching out the seatbelt to give yourself space, you twisted in your spine and reached into the bag holding the snacks. It took a bit of effort to sort through the collection of goodies stuffed inside, but eventually the bag of chips crinkled beneath your fingers as you pulled them out and sat back in your seat. Here.
Thanks. Do you mind opening it?
His eyes lit up at the prospects of the snacks as you shook your head in amusement, piping the top of the bag.
Oh my god. What is these options?
Want me to feed them to you? His eyes widened, the hint of a blush creeping over his cheeks, but he steadfastly continued to face the road.
No, that's okay. Can you just pour a few into my hand?
Yeah, sure.
Thanks.
Cole held out one outstretched hand. You did your best to have the chips fall onto his palm, but some did end up on the floor. After that, you rolled up the top of the bag and stowed the chips safely in the back again. When he turned to the front, it was to find Cole crushing a fistful of chips into his mouth, crunching loudly. He wiped his hands off his pants absentmindedly before gripping the wheel and spilling crumbs all over the place.
Bruh.
You're like a little kid. He snorted and pulled a hand from the wheel once more to flick the salty residue from his fingers at you. With a gasp, you raised an arm to defend yourself. You shook your head at the mess of crumbs that fell from his mouth as he chuckled. See what I mean? The hours drifted by, but the same way as that, with the two of you snacking and chatting as the day stretched on. It was fairly calm and quiet traveling along the open road, and you found little in the way of interruptions. At one point, you passed a Welcome to Nevada sign, and Cole gave a tiny cheer. He was in disbelief that the two of you were seriously all the way in another state like this. Eventually, you had to stop for gas, and made a detour to a small diner to grab a proper meal that didn't consist of chips and candy. After refueling both the car and your stomachs, the drive was back on, just as the sun began dipping beneath the horizon and bathing the sky in a wash of orange light. Cole informed you that there wasn't too much longer left to go. You were almost there. When night eventually fell in a blanket of darkness, the drive finally came to an end. Cole pulled into the parking lot of Kyra's apartment building. The glow of the car lights disappeared as he turned off the engine and let out a heavy sigh.
Huh.
We made it. We're here.
The two of you exchanged tired smiles, having successfully and safely completed one half of the trip. You were relieved to have actually arrived and eager to get out of the car and stretch your legs. You took the stairs up to the building together. After a knock, you were abruptly met by a flash of green hair as Kyra opened the door and immediately took her son in her arms. There he is, my gigantic baby boy! She squeezed him for a moment and pulled back so she could examine his face. Are you even taller than the last time I saw you? Cole gave her a fond look as she patted the tops of his shoulders proudly.
You say that every time I'm here. It doesn't even make sense right now. My last visit wasn't that long ago.
Kyra simply laughed before letting him go, fully ushering the two of you into her apartment. Then she turned to you, wide grin pulling at her lips. Susan, it's so nice you came along with, and as a bonus you both arrived in one piece. Hey, it's good to see you too. It's been a long time. Kyra beamed at you, and while you would have loved nothing more than to settle down and rest after the drive, you could see she wasn't going to let you go that easily. So, how was the trip? I admit I was just a pinch worried. I appreciate your concern, but it was alright.
We made it without a scratch.
Kyra clasped her hands together, the bracelets around her wrist jingling. I am so proud. I can hardly believe how mature you both are. Where did all those smarts come from? Close ran a hand over his hair with an awkward chuckle.
I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe I got some from my parents.
His mom looked at him deeply, her eyes glistening as she took the sentimentality off with a wave of her hand.
Any whoosies?
You ought to be happy to sleep already, huh? I don't want to keep you up much longer. Early morning and any whoosies.
That is a sentence.
Just saving just in case.
Oh yeah.
How do you want to deal with the sleeping arrangements? I've only got my own room in Cove, so the living room couch isn't bad.
Susan can use my bed. I'll just sleep on the floor in the room. It doesn't matter for one night.
Kyra laughed out loud, startling you both. He raised an eyebrow at her outburst, giving her a quizzical look. Oh yeah, you'll just stay on the floor. You couldn't handle that much back when you were 13, with both your parents in the room. Cole blushed a dark red and gasped, completely unprepared for her to pull out that embarrassing moment from the past.
I love it.
Yeah, her laughter continued unabated. You want to be driving tomorrow? Do you really want to risk another potential head injury?
Hey!
Hey.
Hmm.
Hey. Oh, sorry. Hey, Mom.
I'll put a hand on your arm. He gave you a grateful smile and Kyra cooed at the two of you.
Hey!
I just said this line.
Say it again.
Okay. Mom.
You finally let it drop and you tried to move on. I'll sleep on the couch. Well, thank you for letting me have. Well,
Indecisive.
I'll just sleep on the couch. Cove shook his head, dismissing the idea immediately.
No.
No. You're the guest.
I don't want to take your bed.
Well, I still don't want to take it from you, and I said it first.
The two of you narrowed your eyes at each other stubbornly. Kyra took that as her cue to step in. My house, my rules, then, and you know I have to side, and you know who I have to side with. I'd like you to take the bed, Susan. You hesitated a moment, but it seemed you had to accept the hospitality. With a small sigh, you gave in. All right.
Cool.
So,
would you be okay with me sleeping on the floor in the room? I'd rather be there than out in the open in the living room, even if there is the couch.
I prefer yeah. Kyra giggled softly, drawing your attention back to her. Oh, funny stuff aside, you need to get some sleep for tomorrow. Seems like you're setting yourselves up not to get any. I know it sounds really capricious, but I'm a mom. I have to say these things.
Come on, we're not little kids having a sleepover. We're responsible adults, right, Susan? these options, I swear.
Hmm. Yes. She gave the two of you a suspicious look, and you stood up straighter, trying to prove your point. I'll leave it for you then. For now, just remember that the walls are thin in this apartment. If you can't settle down and sleep, I might have to separate you.
We'll be good.
Marvelous.
Perfect.
Wait,
Kyra
is she
clasped.
Oh no.
Kyra clasped her hands together, her bracelets softly tingling against each other again. It's only getting later, so I better let you prepare for bed. She nodded towards the hallway and gave you a small smile. I'll play hostess for a second, show you where the bathroom is first, Susan, and where you'll be staying the night. Thank you. You hoisted your travel bag over your shoulder and followed behind Kyra down the hallway. Cove shuffled along beside you, disappearing into the bedroom while his mom had you go to the restroom. The apartment was small but nicely decorated in soft, cool colors with plenty of artwork hanging on the walls to give it character. It was stylish and exactly what you would have expected for someone like Kyra. Ooh, nice.
Hmm.
Love the colors. After being shown the bathroom and wishing Kyra good night, you headed into the room and found Cove already there. He had already changed into his sleepwear for the night as well, set aside his glasses already. Looking around, he found the bedrooms looked much more the same as the rest of the apartment, but with small ocean elements you were sure Cove must have enjoyed when he stayed here. All in all, the room was pretty clean, though it almost looked like more of a hotel guest room than a bedroom. Cove only spent a few weeks out of the year there, so it made sense that it wasn't especially lived in.
So?
What do you think? It's pretty nice, huh? Mom always keeps it clean and everything, even when I'm not here.
It's a great room.
Cool. I'm glad you like it.
He seemed pleased enough with the response and gave you a small smile before opening the zip on his bag. When you went back to the room, you jumped in bed and under the covers just as Cole was shuffling into his sleeping bag on the floor. You waited until he settled in before you flipped off the lights, and a soft glow from outside peeked through the blinds, casting shadows over the floor. You closed your eyes, blocking everything out.
Night.
Night, Susan.
Night, Cole. Sleep well. The room was quiet as the two of you wound down for the night, and you found yourself listening to the sounds of the city outside the window. The noise out there was so different from what you used to have back home. Cars zooming past and people out having fun, instead of crashing waves and the ocean winds cocooning your house in their embrace. This feels familiar, don't you think? We've been having sleepovers for years. Cole mumbled quietly and rustled in his bedding, turning his face towards your location.
Right?
Right? It feels like I've had this view so many times, looking up over you at... Ugh. Looking up over at you tucked in bed.
You trailed off a little and assumed he was drifting off to sleep, too tired to continue the conversation. But then, as if a switch had been hit, he sprung up, startling you as he shot upright in his sleeping bag.
Wait a minute. Why am I always on the floor?
Wait, what? You raised your eyebrows at him through the dark.
The times I slept over at your house, you got to stay in your bed. It was your bed, after all. But when it was my family hosting things, Dad always made sure you got a bed there.
The words spilled out on him faster and faster, the pitch of his voice rising as the revelation spiraled.
He'd say that you were the guest, so it was only right. No matter what, I've always been the one to take the floor. Every time.
Yes, we get it, Cove. You're...
This is a racket.
We get it, Cove. You're a bottom. Anyways. Wait a minute.
I'm sorry, I didn't want it to be that way. He felt really bad about the whole thing, but Cole was too hysterical to listen.
Oh, my life is crumbling. I can't believe it. This has been going on for 10 years.
He stopped suddenly. You could see through the limited light that his eyebrows were angled in disbelief. His frown wobbly in shock. That's how it is in my family. My mom's always thought that it was more fun and comfortable for the guests to use their own sleeping things rather than a stranger's bed.
And in my family, the guest gets the bed, because it's good to make sure your guest has a proper place to sleep. We were opposites all along, but I never even thought about it.
When it looked like the situation was going to stall there, Cove sighed suddenly, his shoulders slumping into a sleep-ailed defeat.
It's okay.
Oh, forget it. It's too late to take back all those nights on the floor. At least I could think of myself as really considerate.
He sounded resigned to his fate, but despite looking on the bright side, he was still pouting. Hmm. I did offer you to take the bed tonight, you know.
I know.
I know, but you were still the guest, and I hadn't had the epiphany.
With a tired sigh, he flopped back down.
I can make do with the floor, for old time's sake. Oh my god.
Some real humor came back to his tone.
It's basically a tradition by now.
Hmm. Should we?
No.
Um, hmm.
Besides, isn't that a thing in step 4 or whatever?
It's not like we're gonna do it. We're just gonna, you know,
I-
cuddle.
I know, but considering what Kyra said, that doesn't help matters.
Mm. I kind of want to, though, you know?
I mean, you're the player character.
Why don't we share? It's big enough. Cove inhaled deeply, the fabric of his sleeping bag crinkling loudly as he fidgeted beneath.
I told my mom I was gonna stay on the floor.
He frowned, wondering when that had ever stopped him before. Did you really plan on going through with that?
No.
He hesitated a little, the sound stretching between you. You couldn't help but smile to yourself. You knew him well. The sleeping bag rustled again, and through the dim light, she saw him standing and headed towards the bed. He took in a deep breath as he ran his hands across the top of the blanket, gathering his nerves as his eyes met yours. And then he paused, head tilted to the side as if silently asking permission. It's alright. He shuffled over to make room for him as he pulled the bedding up and crawled beneath the covers, leaving the two of you close together but not quite touching. He exhaled a heavy breath as he lay down on his side, his head getting comfy on the pillow next to yours. You had a strange feeling in your stomach, like he was doing a little somersault, but it felt good to have him close. He raised his fingers and delicately brushed the tips over your cheeks, drawing a shaky sigh from your lips. His touch was warm and feather-light, making you feel tingly all over. When his eyes met yours again, you found yourself lost in them. The world became still and silent around you. Then he froze, his muscles tensing as he closed up like a clam, and his breath hitched in his throat. He attempted to whisper something, but it was completely lost on you. With that happening to suffice as a warning, Cove jumped out of the bed and crouched down on the floor. His head held in his hands as he took in a few deep, shuddering breaths. You bolted upright in the bed, staring down at him with a mixture of alarm and amusement. Are you okay?
I'm always like this.
I thought I'd feel it like I did before when we were younger, but it's different now. I'm sorry, Susan. Really sorry. I'm just so...
He panted deeply in and out as though he had just had to finish running an entire marathon. After finally sending his breathing to a normal rhythm, he crawled back into his sleeping bag and huddled down on the floor, his back turned towards you.
Sorry.
Aw. So close, yet so far.
Save for step 4.
Well, at least you tried. He made an apologetic noise, acknowledging that he had heard you, but could say no more. With a resigned sigh, he laid back down in the bed alone. The next day dawned, ringing with the sounds of birds chirping happily outside the window. You opened your eyes slowly, letting them adjust to the light as you tried to recall where you were and remembering the unfamiliar sight of Cove's second bedroom. Cove none be awake.
Oh, 1 second. Okay, there we go.
What the heck? Felt like I was out of session there. Rise and shine, Susan.
Cole shook your shoulder and you groaned dramatically and buried your head beneath your pillow. 5 more minutes.
No way.
Time's up. No way, we've got to get started.
Sitting up in bed, you let out a yawn and stretched your arms above your head. You felt okay. Considering the long drive the day before and the late night, you were feeling ready to get the day started. Though you weren't as perky as him, his energy was infectious. Good morning. You pulled yourself out of bed, grabbing a fresh change of clothes and your toiletries before heading to the bathroom. After all that, you met Cove back in his room. He was sitting on the floor when you entered, sorting through a bunch of stuff in a box, determined what to bring and what to leave behind. Hey.
Hey.
Hey, can you pull out the stuff in those drawers?
He nodded, though he hadn't looked up from his task, so you knew he wouldn't have seen. Heading over to his drawers, she started the task of tasking out various items and setting them on the ground in front of Cove. After a while, it became clear to you that Cove was acting strange whenever you were near him. He was flinching over your presence. It happened a few more times before you couldn't take the awkwardness any longer. You dropped the stuff you were holding down in front of him and raised a questioning eyebrow. Is everything okay?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry. I'm sorry about last night. Again.
He quietly squeaked the second part out of his thought.
About not staying in the bed with you. I know you just want to be with your own boyfriend and not have to feel bad about wanting that or be rejected over it. You shouldn't have to, but I do it anyway.
He smiled thickly, struggling to find the right words to explain himself.
I do think it felt nice. Really. Just also not bad, but good in a inconvenient way.
I mean,
Like, together like that, being so close, it gets too hot, you know?
I mean, you're a fish.
His cheeks flushed with color, and he immediately trailed off, his eyes fixed firmly on the floor. Mm. 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 It was that intense on you, huh? Maybe I'm the one who should apologize. His eyes widened, and a pink tinge creeping onto his cheeks before he could duck his head enough to hide it.
Just
well,
don't worry about it. You don't need to do anything. Let's get back to packing.
With it more or less resolved, he went on to grab some more items as Ko focused on the box in front of him once again.
Oh hey, look at this.
When he turned towards the sound of Ko's voice, you found him digging through one of the drawers beneath the bed.
neat.
Here's something I definitely need to bring. Neat.
Craning your head, you got a better glimpse of what he was holding. An old yellowing book. When he opened it up, there were a few dried pressed flowers beneath the pages. Those had been gifts you had given him from his mom's place. Something for him to remember you by and to make his time here less lonely. He kept them the whole time. Of course you should take them. I'd be hurt if you didn't. A small smile pulled to your lips as though you thought back on when you had mailed your gift to Cove. I put a lot of thought into that present, you know.
It's nice.
These are special. It was important. Having a piece of you with me when we were apart.
I felt the same way. That's why I gave them to you. Cove smiled, pleased that the feeling was mutual, but then the expression became more amused.
And did you keep the souvenirs I brought back?
Of course. His grin grew to completion.
Thanks.
Another hour passed by in silence, and you were really happy to see you were making progress with Cole's room, with only the closet left to sort through. You took a minute to take a mouthful of water from your bottle and perched on the edge of the bed, feeling productive. Cole glanced over at you and paused, putting down the tape gun he had been used to steal up his boxes. You raised an eyebrow.
You know, it's really strange to see you sitting in this room.
Why? He frowned a little, his eyes distant, his voice quiet when he spoke next.
That's...
During the visits to Mom's, when I was sitting alone in this room, I'd sometimes think about how you weren't here. It was a weird feeling at the time, that you just weren't around, and now that you are here in this exact place, I don't know how to explain the feeling.
He shrugged it off and smiled a little, as though he said enough already and didn't want to risk sounding silly.
Life is pretty confusing is all.
No, life is strange.
I missed you so much when you were gone. His brow crinkled as he looked at you solemnly, his eyes bright with emotion.
I missed you too, all the time.
It made you feel better to know that, somehow. To know that when you were stuck at home missing his company, that he was missing yours too. He looked away satisfied, heading over to the closet and the last of the items to be sorted. Before long, every box, closet, and drawer had been thoroughly combed through, with the items either neatly packed up in boxes or organized and returned to their proper place. With a sigh of relief, you glanced around the bedroom and the work you have done together.
Alright.
Alright, we're done. Good job to us. I'm gonna change into my PJs for the drive.
Yeah.
So get out!
When the two of you headed out into the living room ready to get everything finalized and hit the road, you found Kyra in the kitchen pouring a cup of tea. Cove headed towards her, leaning casually against the counter that divided the two spaces.
Hey, you didn't have to get up so early.
Come on.
Are you crazy? Of course I have to see you out before you go. You can't sneak away while I'm out cold.
Curses, foiled again.
Yep, just another save.
Okay.
She beamed at heaven in all honesty, seemed more than happy to be up and getting ready for the day. Do you want some breakfast? I got some muesli or eggs and toast. Oh, and some of that fruity cereal you used to love.
That's okay. We should really eat on the road.
Kira smiled sadly, a little disappointed, but she seemed to understand that your time was running thin. I thought you might say that. In that case, I packed you some snacks for the road.
What do you think?
If you don't end up eating them, take it anyway, just in case. You can always read them to Cliff when you get home and tell him I said hi. Cole laughed and shook his head, knowing his dad would love nothing more than to polish off whatever food Kyra had prepared for you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mom. You really didn't have to.
Thank you for the snacks. I'm sure they'll come in handy with this guy around. Cove scoffed and playfully rolled his eyes, earning a giggle from Kyra. I don't doubt it. Like father, like son. She returned your smile with one of her own before putting her cup of tea aside. Well, I'll help you get the car packed.
Sure.
Sure. Thanks.
The three of you got a move on, taking the boxes from Cole's bedroom and heading down to fill the back seat of the car until there was barely an inch of space left in the back and trunk. With all you helping, only took a couple of trips to move everything, and you were done before you knew it. Then it was truly time to say goodbye. You convened back inside the apartment where Kyra looked over the two of you with a quiet smile. It was great to see you both. Thank you for coming. She gave each of you a hug, and you felt a little sad that you hadn't been able to spend more time with her.
It was good to see you too, Mom.
Cove embraced her in return, the two of them holding on to each other for a few seconds longer.
I'll miss you, but I'll visit again soon.
Of course.
You better.
Hey, we should make plans for you to visit us too. I'll let you know when it's settled.
I love that. Kira bundled all the stuff she prepared into a bag and handed them over to you. You took a quick peek at what she had packed. There were fruits, nuts, seeds, hard-boiled eggs, and some veggie sticks.
Cool.
Oh, good to see we've got some fresh food options now. The snacks I brought weren't.
Kyra shook her head at him and let out a soft laugh as though she would have expected anything else. I seriously hope you've been feeding yourself better than I seriously hope you're feeding yourselves better than at home.
Yeah, of course, just not on trips. Oh, I just thought of something.
I can live with that. She looked over at him fondly, her eyes at last focusing on his face and filling with emotion. I'm going to miss you, baby.
Me too.
Me too.
We'll all be together then before you know it. Oh, I hope so. Kira put an arm around you both, pulling you pulling you in tight to her sides from one final squeeze.
Bye.
Have a safe trip.
We will.
With the last goodbye, you exited the apartment though Cove hesitated for a moment in the door, his expression distant. You weren't sure what he was doing, though you tentatively took a step towards him. Everything okay? Your voice seemed to bring him back to earth, and he shook his head to clear his thoughts, his green hair swaying from side to side.
Come on.
Yeah, let's go.
With that, the two of you headed back down to the car, ready to make the long trip home. Soon enough, you were on the wide open road with a car full of Cove's things and only one destination, Sunset Berg, California. The drive went as smoothly as could be expected, with the morning slowly creeping into midday as the miles flew by. The day flew by in a whir of open road and sunshine, and before you knew it, it was early afternoon. By that point, you already crossed the state line. Cove announced that he planned a little stop on the way home. He was quite pleased with himself as you arrived at the
precipice.
Thanks. The Redwood National Park. Shaded beneath the canopy of enormous redwood trees, you drove along. When Cole parked the car, he pushed open the door to get out, and the first thing he did was look up. Enormous redwood trees surrounded you on all sides, their massive trunks shooting straight up into a canopy of foliage overhead. There were too many of them to count, stretching on and on as far as you could see. You squinted against the sunlight that was peeking through the leaves and dancing on the paths around you.
It's great, right?
He smiled at you from over the roof of the car before glancing around the place fondly.
Remember the trip our families took here that one summer? It was cool going on a journey and seeing the forest in person, even if we didn't stay very long.
So...
And I guess we can stay for even less this time. But oh well. I know you didn't have a super good time then, but I thought maybe you'd be able to enjoy the park now. It just seemed like another good chance, or it just seemed like a good chance. It just seemed like a good time to stop by. Who knows when we'll get another chance?
His voice got a little softer at the end. It seemed to be bittersweet for him, being in a place he was so fond of, but not having the time to appreciate it fully. I was pleased. It was a beautiful place to stretch your legs and take in some fresh air. There'll be more chances in the future, I promise. Cove smiled, shoving his hands in his pockets and dipping his head.
I'm gonna hold you to that.
The two of you walked around for a while, completely dwarfed by the sheer scale of redwood trees. Kind of put your view of yourself and everything in a strange perspective. You took in a lungful of clean forest air, listening to the sound of bird song and the cool breeze rustling through the underbrush, taking advantage of the space to move around freely. However you felt about being there was totally different scene than sitting in that old car for hours and hours. Wrap an arm. You startled a little at the sudden contact, giving you an apologetic smile before you slowly relaxed into it. Being here again, you couldn't help but reminisce on what else had happened during the trip you'd taken here all that time ago. There were a lot of things that had reminded you of it recently. You looked over at Cole, who seemed to be lost in the peace of the place, and you wondered if any of it crossed his mind. Smiling at the sight, you thought back on what had been the highlight of that long-gone vacation. You know how we almost kissed on that RV trip? Do you remember that? Cove snorted and covered his mouth with his hand, but you could still see the flush of pink on the tip of his nose.
Yeah, I remember. I almost gave myself a concussion. It's still probably in the top 10 most humiliating things I've ever done.
You chuckled at the memory and how your parents had caught the two of you in the loft together after that. I'm sorry about that, by the way.
Don't worry about it.
Don't be. It was kind of funny.
You continued chatting about the trip a little while longer, about the things you had seen and done, and even eaten. A lot of the memories Cove had of the trip were similar to your own, but you were also surprised to hear of a few other things from his point of view. So much had happened that there was no shortage of things to talk about. The place certainly had a nostalgic quality about it.
Hey, Susan?
You looked over at the sound of Cove saying your name to find him smiling at you, seemingly relaxed among the nature of the park.
Has anyone ever told you that... Has anyone ever told you before that you have gorgeous eyes? Because you do.
The words left his lips and he froze, completely taken aback by the compliment. He blushed and quickly dipped his head, unable to look at you.
That's another thing that happened during the trip.
I can never forget. Both of you blushed simultaneously, your faces as red as the others. Your spirits were light as you ambled past information boards and picnic areas. But before long, you decided it was time to bring this short trip to an end and head back to the car to get on the road again. Cole sighed when he finally reached the vehicle, jangling the keys in his hand before unlocking the doors.
Well...
I wish we didn't have to go, but we're gonna be responsible and not stay longer than we should.
How grown up of you. He smiled slightly, and with that, the two of you jumped into the car, buckled in, and he put it in drive. You were getting closer and closer to town just as the sun started setting, though you were still far away that the radio stations were unfamiliar to you. Look at our boy. Cole twisted the dial this way and that before stumbling onto a channel with the songs he seemed to like. That was a rare gift from the face in the sea of static, strange radio jockeys and grating tunes. His face immediately brightened at the sound of it, and he jumped his fingers along the bottom of the steering wheel happily. Sitting back in his seat, he bobbed his head and shimmied his shoulders in time with the tune, all while mouthing along to the words. Occasionally, he even lifted one hand from the wheel to gesture with his fingers for a specific line. He smiled. You got the impression that he was pleased to be heading back home after everything. The song ended, and Kobe reached over to start cycling through the radio stations again. But finding nothing tolerable, he flipped the dial off in defeat and leaned back in his seat with a sigh. You rested your head on your hand and stared out the window as the sky darkened, watching the landscape slowly meld into more familiar views. The miles went on, and any energy you had earlier was beginning to drain away. You imagined home and your family. You'd be getting there soon.
You know, I spent all these years living in Sunset Bird, and taking a few weeks each summer visiting my mom in that second room. That's not gonna happen anymore. Not really.
I mean,
I can still see my parents, but the way it all works between us has changed forever.
He paused, the silence stretching, a serious look settled on his face, his thoughts far away. I'm worried about how things will be in the future. So many things will be different. I hope I'm ready for... Cole's mouth pulled into a tight line and gave a small nod. He had the feeling that he understood how he felt. Cole stared straight ahead down the long, long road. The path looked like it'd never end from where you were, but that wasn't true. Eventually, he found a few more words to say.
I'm so glad.
I think it's good we were able to do this trip without any parents or chaperones. It was just us. We did it all. I don't know, I feel a little more independent now. A little more ready for what's ahead.
I'm not sure I'll ever be ready. Thought of leaving home, my mom's, it's scary. Cove sighed solemnly. Topic seemed to wear on Cove, but he made an attempt to find something else to speak on.
So, I'm kinda sad about getting back. I'm gonna miss having you right there tonight. Oh, jeez.
He cleared his throat quietly, though he said nothing more. You smiled to yourself a little at hearing him say something like that out loud. I'm gonna miss it too. And with that, and with the feelings confirmed as mutual, the two of you fell into a comfortable silence. The sky outside grew ever darker as the hours passed by, the stars blinking on like tiny fireflies painting onto a canvas of blue. The scenery continued transitioning between open roads, industrial areas, and beach towns, becoming increasingly recognizable as time went on. You felt somewhat disconnected from the world around you as you watched it through your window, your tired mind growing hazy. It was a strange, reflective feeling, but peaceful nonetheless. I'm gonna need to get a drink after this. Soon
Okay.
enough, the world would return to you, and you find yourself, your feet firmly on the ground. It could be helped. The adventure would end, could continue, but your memories would linger on.
Alright.
That was quick.
N- yeah, quick. How long have we been streaming? Let me check. An hour?
No, I mean, I said I wanted to drink, and then it ended.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Hey, Dark Prince Rain.
Hey, Dark Prince, hello, welcome in.
Actually. Okay, this was the idea I mentioned earlier. So basically, man, it sounds like Cove and the player character needed some HelloFresh on the road, which is a good segue too.
Yes, because I'm sponsored by HelloFresh. And if you guys are interested in supporting me, please do. I'm being sponsored by HelloFresh this month. If you guys use the code, you can get 21 meals for free, and it's free shipping. Please do support me. I am actually I only have about a week or so left before my thing expires, so please do support me. I'd really appreciate it, guys. Thanks for that, sweetie.
Yep. Yeah, no problem.
Ugh. I need to breathe a little bit. Okay. We're not doing too bad, though. Okay, next one. Reflection. Oh, we're in his room again. Yay.
Alright.
Hey, the room's actually, look, there's no stand on the thing here. Looks like it got changed a little bit. Like,
Mm-hmm.
Things look different a little bit. There's a fish. Sort of the fish tank was over here last time, but it's good. After finishing breakfast at the Holden's house, you and Cove had retreated to his room to relax and before starting the day in earnest, or perhaps you would take it easy for the whole afternoon. Neither of you had plans exactly, so you're free to do whatever came to mind.
Hmm.
Leaning against him. You snuggled close to his side, comforted by his warmth. He was so nice there that you had to fend off the urge to doze off. Hove lounged in a similarly eased manner. He had his phone open, and it was idly scrolling through something odd as you enjoyed one another's presence nearby. A burst of laughter broke through the silence, hooking your attention and bringing you back to the present. You looked at Cove for an explanation. His eyes, now crinkled with mirth, were still locked on his screen. "What's so funny?" He finally looked up at you, smirking.
Dad's got some old photos. You know.
He drew a rectangle in the air with the phone free hand.
Printed out ones back from when I was little. He texted it all to me last night, I guess. I've been checking them out.
"Can I see?" Cove narrowed his eyes, smile still bent.
I was gonna show you. I just wanted to look at it first to make sure there was nothing super embarrassing. You never know with my dad.
He grimaced, envisaging what horrors his dad might unwillingly spring on him.
I mean,
What if there's a photo of me getting potty trained or something?
Cove only cleared his throat nervously, the fear of his dad's well-meaning action still looming large in his mind.
Anyways, before we forget, I was laughing because I came across a Halloween one from when I was 8. The year I was a zombie, remember?
He shook his head, grinning wearily while holding the phone out to you.
Oh my god.
I never even liked zombies. All I wanted was to show off my new scar, and it seemed to need to be something scary. I could be a normal person who had a scar according to my 8-year-old mind. I was a little dork.
right?
Dad really wanted to be useful, as usual. He came up with the idea of being an undead person is pretty good, huh?
It was good, but my costume that year was better. You've been very proud of it. Cove chuckled at your reply.
I can't believe how much larger my scar used to be.
He looked down at his arm with a soft smile on his face and traced what remained of the jagged line with his fingers just as you had seen him do countless times before. His voice was playful when he spoke again. Like, you actually see, like, right around where my mouse is. You guys probably you can't see it, sweetie, but it's like right along the right arm, like his left arm, but it would look like on the right to you. There's like a faint white line like around his arm here. His voice was playful when he spoke again.
Look how tiny it is now.
I'd like you to pretend to be tough without a big scar.
It still looks cool.
Thanks.
Cole smiled bashfully, pleased with his joke, and ducked his head to look away from you. His fingers were still tracing the scarred patch of skin.
I really do like having this, even if it is kind of little these days.
His voice was shy, like he was letting you in on a big secret. Cove turned back to face you fully, finally letting go of his scar. He was happy. That mark was a part of him and clearly held meaning for Cove. Can I touch your scar? He blinked, taken aback by the request, but nodded easily.
It's okay.
Yeah, that's okay.
You cupped his arm with your fingers carefully as your thumb ran down the outline of his scar. Along with the rougher tissue of the scar, you could also feel goosebumps on his arm. Cole let out a choked breath, a dizzied smile playing on his face. It was evidence that he liked the feeling. Kiss it.
Oh my god.
You hold ship so you could bring his forearm to your face. Cole quietly gasped when he realized what you were doing. He tenderly kissed the old wound that marked him. Cole squeezed at the feeling of your lips on him, and in that spot in particular. But this expression was overwhelmingly one of adoration. Cove couldn't stay still and reached for you himself with his free hand, his fingers brushing against your cheek. He leaned forward, eyes gleaming. Automatically began to match his movements, pulling nearer to him. His cheeks burned red as he closed the gap between you, his mouth gently meeting yours. You held onto his arm like a lifeline. She kissed him back, briefly worried that you might drown in the depths of your feelings. Then you opened your eyes, meeting Cove's, and knew that the feeling was mutual. He laid his forehead to rest against yours. He felt his hot breath tickling your face. Heads touching, your hand on his arm. You were entwined with Cove. It felt so right. Time couldn't register in that moment. Could have been seconds or minutes, but eventually you straightened up, lifting your hand from his scar. That seemed to break the spell. Though he stayed close to you, Cove sat up and came to his senses. Your eyes drifted back to the scar on Cove's arm. The scar had been there as long as you'd known Cove, though when you first met it had been concealed by that neon pink cast.
So?
Do you want to hear how it happened? How I was hurt?
You were initially stunned that he'd guessed what you were thinking, though given the topic of conversation and the direction of your gaze, it was a natural conclusion to reach. Not bothered by your reaction, Cove continued with a shrug.
I don't mind telling you, it's nothing special.
He rubbed the back of his neck, grinning sheepishly.
Mostly, it's just really dumb.
You nodded. That was something you'd like to hear more about, especially knowing that no lasting harm had come of it. Cove stared into the distance, lips parted as he readied the story in his mind.
So, me, my dad, and mom were at a party. I don't know if it was a casual get-together or a specific celebration. I hope it wasn't for something meaningful, considering how I ended it.
He winced, then managed a bashful smile.
Anyways, my mom and dad were off doing stuff, talking to people, I guess. I was left with the other non-adults. Most of them were older than I was. Maybe all of them were?
His brow furrowed as he tried to recall dusty memories, then he shrugged again and continued.
The older kids were taking turns on the jet skis. There weren't enough for everyone to ride at once, so in between turns they were hanging out on the shore. I was meant to just sit there with them and watch.
Remembering when you first met Cove, you bet that he hadn't been satisfied with that arrangement. He confirmed that suspicion.
I was pretty unhappy. It wasn't a party for me. Not when all I could do was look at other people have fun when I couldn't. The teens must have realized that, though. I never hid when I was pouting as a kid.
Only when you were a kid. Cove bristled with embarrassment. It looked pretty sulky to you.
Come on, let me finish the story.
Alright. Cove sighed, letting go of the interruption and picking up where he'd left off.
Well,
Basically, someone offered to let me ride. I was way too small to drive him myself. This older kid, they must have been at least 16, said I could sit in front of them while they controlled the jet ski. I knew I wasn't supposed to do anything like that. Still, I figured my parents were doing whatever they wanted, so why couldn't I? I nodded at the person, and I remember the other teens helping me onto the jet ski, along with the one driving. We sped off into the water.
Cove smiled widely and wistfully.
It was amazing, at first. My hair was flying everywhere as we zoomed away from the shore. I love being out on the water like that. Too bad it turned out steering a jet ski with an 8-year-old sat on your lap was harder than a bunch of kids figured it would be. The teens tried their best, but they couldn't keep control for long. We got spun around and went right into the sand.
He sucked in a deep breath.
The other person wasn't hurt, thankfully. They held onto the bars and stayed in their seat. I didn't. I was thrown at full speed into a rocky part of the shore near the dock. I must have tried to brace for impact or catch myself because my arm is what I mostly landed on.
He looked down at the limp in question. You could see him visualizing the long-healed injury.
that's...
It was pretty torn up. After that, it's hazy for me. I got taken to the hospital. I didn't feel a lot of pain when it first happened. All I remember thinking about was how I was covered in sand and the grains were uncomfortable.
The sand was uncomfortable? Cove chuckled.
I know, right? I did start feeling my arm later. It definitely hurt eventually. The doctor said my arm was broken, along with being torn open. That's how I ended up getting my pink cast.
He smiled nostalgically.
That color, it seemed just nice and happy at the time. It brightened the mood, so I picked it.
The smile faded. He finished the story with a sigh, his eyes downcast.
I feel bad I did any of that. I hope whoever that teen was, they weren't traumatized by seeing a little kid go flying into the ground. They were just trying to do a nice thing.
Cove threw arms out to the side dramatically.
I wish I knew who they were so I could give them a call and say, I'm still in one piece. One Piece! But yeah, that's the full story.
I'm really sorry that happened. He couldn't help but worry about how scary it must have been for all involved. Cove hung his head. He didn't press further. It was clear that he regretted the impulsive choice he'd made.
It was a failure. That's just the truth.
He smiled flatly.
But to my credit, I think I've grown a lot since then. Wait.
Cove's eyes went completely wide. Suddenly reinvigorated, he seized his phone and tapped away at the screen. What's up?
I knew it.
You weren't sure that he heard you, but he set his phone down and turned to face directly to you. His face was resolute. Through the glow of the screen was no longer reflected in his eyes. They seemed to sparkle even brighter than before.
Susan, we're adults. We can decide things for ourselves now.
Where is this going?
The age requirement to rent a jet ski in California is 18. We could totally do it.
Oh my god.
You were silently shocked. Cove pouted, his lower lip jutting out, which didn't back up what he said next.
Come on.
I'm not a little kid. You don't have to worry.
Within a moment, Cove had recovered and returned to his serious expression from before.
I'll be careful, and I really want you to be there when I try again. Please.
His voice was soft and earnest. You could tell how much the request meant to him. You also knew him enough to know that he wasn't going to give up on this idea. Letting him go on his own wasn't an option. I can't have you running off by yourself. I'll go, without any hospital trips. I'd be interested in trying it. Cole perked up once again, and grin stretched wide across his face. He was practically bouncing in place.
Let's go.
You got up and worked as a team to gather everything needed for the trip. Cove's other aquatic hobbies came in handy, and he was quickly knitted out with everything he needed other than the jet skis themselves. You needed to run back home briefly, having dressed and prepared for a day that didn't involve jet skiing, but soon enough you both were ready and jumping into Cove's car. As you got in, you learned that Cove used a brief time apart to locate a rental store on his phone. You caught his eye as you clicked your seatbelt in place. Excited, you held out a hand. Cove slapped it in a high five before setting off. You and Cove soon arrived. The ocean was perfectly inviting today. The deep blue of the water glittered under the clear sky, while the tide rolled in and out at its leisure.
I'm so excited for this.
I felt a chill of fear. Spotting your uncertainty, Cove gave you a reassuring smile.
Hey.
Oh, hey, wanna say hi to my dad while we're here? I've already texted my mom about the plan. He's working right now.
You remembered how close his shop was. It wouldn't take long even by walking. Sure, we can do that. Mr. Holden was a great guy, so you were happy to check in on him.
Sorry.
Thanks. Sorry, it might be kind of awkward when he hears why you're here, but it should be alright. I mean, my parents forgave me a long time ago for that amazing stunt. I don't want to be scared off jet skiing for my whole life because of it.
This time, the one he seemed to be attempting to reassure was himself. It was only a short walk back down to the dock to Mr. Holden's scuba shop. Cole breezed in, as familiar with the store as he walked in was his own home. The place was quiet, empty aside from a couple customers quietly browsing and Cove's dad behind the counter. Mr. Holden looked up, his friendly expression spreading into a grin when he saw who had just entered.
Hey!
Hey, Susan. Hey, sport. What brings you all the way out here?
He cast an eye all the way the two of you were dressed.
Judging by how you're decked out, I'm guessing scuba diving. There's plenty here for that. What can I help you with?
Cove chuckled, amused by how quickly his dad seized on a favorite topic. Or maybe it was how his dad always fell over him trying to be useful.
Hi, Dad. We're not doing that this time. We sort of decided to go rent a couple of jet skis.
The phrase jet skis had set Mr. Holden's mouth in a taut line immediately.
Jet skis.
He echoed the words and his eyes instantly darted into the scar on Cove's arm.
That's when.
Mr. Holden started to speak several times, each attempt quickly abandoned. Cole smiled encouragingly, trying not to add to his father's worries.
Don't worry about it.
I promise I'll be careful. And Susan will be there too. We always look out for each other.
Mr. Holden pinched his face back into an unconvincing smile.
Right.
Alright. You're a whole lot bigger now than you were back then. Heck, you can drive a car and everything. I'm sure you and Susan will have plenty of fun.
The words still echoed out of his voice, barely concealed by the positive words, but Cole was buoyed with by his father's support.
Yeah, well, we're all set. We only stopped by to say hi and let you know, since we're over here.
Mr. Holden beamed, obviously moved by his son's simple consideration.
Wow, you're so thoughtful. Thanks for taking the time.
Cole gave his dad a crooked smile, shaking his head bashfully. He long stopped buying his dad's effusive phrase, but that didn't mean he'd ever become good at accepting it. Mr. Holden simply laughed at his son's response.
It'd be great if you could keep me in the loop while you're out there too. Just text me to let me know if it's going well or anything.
I will.
His dad smiled more easily.
Great.
Great.
Cole rubbed his arm, causing Mr. Holden's eyes to momentarily twitch back to the childhood injury.
Bye.
We're gonna head out. See you later.
Yeah, take care.
See you, Mr. Holden. Mr. Holden waved you off as you left the store. Terry headed back to the docks, walking side by side. After your feet hit the boards, Cole's pace fell. Glancing over, you saw him looking down out over the water. That wouldn't have been unusual if his expression hadn't been so somber. He wasn't geared up with anticipation or even nervousness, but with an uncharacteristic lethargy. Something was weighing heavy on his mind. Cove?
Huh?
He blinked, startled by you interrupting his rumination.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
He sighed, though he tore his attention from the ocean and gradually drifted back to the water. He cleared your throat, unwilling to lose him again.
Sorry. Again.
He put his hands to his face, rubbing his eyes wearily.
Here I go, thinking everything's resolved with what's happened, and we can have fun. I can't just enjoy anything. I had to find something else to get stuck in my head.
You're having second thoughts about jet skiing?
No.
No, that's not it.
The ends of his lips were drawn to the beginning of a frown, like gray clouds cluttering to signal a coming storm.
So a storm is approaching. Provoking.
I figured my dad would be a little worried about me doing it, but what he was saying, it wasn't what I had expected. He was so sad, it was more than nervous. I think he feels bad, and now I feel bad. But it isn't as if I'm the only one who ever does something stupid or gets hurt. It got me thinking about that whole time. That's when I realized it wasn't long after that accident that my parents separated.
I stay quiet.
As a kid, I didn't think about the consequences of my actions, you know? Or how what I did impacted other people. Like, why should anyone care? I'm the one doing it, not them. It made no sense, and I still cared when other people did things I didn't like. I was 8 and mostly just mad that nothing felt like it was in my control.
You could tell he was building up to something, so you nodded for him to continue.
I was pretty difficult to deal with because of that attitude. But looking back, I think that's what saved me from doing something a lot of kids go through. Blaming themselves for their parents' divorce. It never crossed my mind that anything I did made a difference on my mom and dad's relationship. They would do what they did no matter what. Now though, I guess it's kinda hard to ignore that thought. Huh.
I mean,
Their situation was already so hard, and I wasn't a good kid, so...
He left his words to drift as he looked down, the conclusion unfinished. It was silence between you. But only for a second, Cole pulled himself up to his full height, his chin held aloft. Whatever he decided, he was resolute.
I'm going back. I've got to talk to my dad. I'm not going to let things be like before, where I just feel crappy and refuse to even tell him what's going on. That doesn't work for either of us. You can go ahead, if you want. I won't mind. I still really want to do this, and I'm sure it'll be okay.
There's no way you're going off on your own. We always look out
Curses.
for each other, remember?
Curses, foiled again.
Cole smiled gently, having wanted that deep down.
Thanks. Let's go.
You and Cove retook your steps down the dock once more, heading back to Mr. Holden's scuba shop. The customers you spotted there before were now leaving the store, new bags clutched in their hands. You hoped that this would mean Cove could have his conversation without a public audience. This time, Cove strode inside the shop with purpose. Mr. Holden, still at the counter, glanced up to greet whoever come inside. He grinned as you approached.
How's it going?
Hello again. Forget something?
Sort of.
Cove had reached the counter now. You needed to rush just to keep up with him as he crossed the show floor. Mr. Holden raised an eyebrow, taking in Cove's shift in attitude, and chose his next words with care.
Is everything alright?
Cove swallowed, not answering initially. Talking openly with his dad was still somewhat new for the son. He knew that he was struggling for the right way to begin.
I wanted to ask about what happened.
Mr. Holden winced as the word had struck him physically.
The accident.
No, the divorce.
The pain expression fell from Mr. Holden's face. Wide-eyed, his jaw slacked. He gasped at Cove.
Huh?
Why?
Cole glanced over his shoulder at you. As your eyes met, you saw him draw confidence by having you by his side. He turned back to his father.
I want to know the truth.
His tone was grave.
Did me getting into the accident hurt your marriage? If I hadn't done it, would you and Mom have gotten along better?
No. Hell no.
Mr. Holden quashed the suggestions with a gravity you rarely heard in his voice.
You were 8 years old. You're not responsible in any way. Kyra and I should have protected you. I can understand why you're feeling that. What happened was so horrible. How could it not have an impact? It did. It was a reflection of us as parents. The relationship between just your mom and me was separate and already unsalvageable.
Cove turned away, his brow still furrowed as he looked at the floor.
Well...
Maybe I'm being anxious and it's taking over, but it wasn't just then. I always caused problems.
He plowed on, unwilling to give up without explaining his worries.
What if I'd been easier to raise? Or if you had me later on? Maybe even if you didn't have me at all. It might have been better for the two of you.
If I didn't have you, then what good would my life be?
Mr. Holden didn't let the words hang unchallenged in the air for a second. He hurried over to Cove, taking his son in his arms in his hands.
Cove, listen. There's only one person to blame for things not working, and that's me.
Cove opened his mouth to speak, but Mr. Holden forced on, determined to erase any question in Cove's mind.
I'm not saying this to dishonestly push accountability off from someone else, or to throw a pity party for myself. You want to know the truth, so that's what I'm giving you. Your father is the reason our family couldn't stay together. You think you caused trouble? You should have seen me at your age. You're such a good kid. I can hardly believe how good you are.
Mr. Holden's eyes were misty as he squeezed his son in his arms.
There's nothing, absolutely nothing, you need to blame yourself for. I'm sorry, Cove. To you, and to Kyra.
Mom?
Yeah, your mom.
His pained face eased slightly into a bittersweet smile.
Kyra. She was just so smart, and driven, and completely bursting with life. It was as if she could do anything. You know, there wasn't a single solitary person who didn't want even a piece of her attention, just to catch her eye for a moment. But for some crazy reason, she got a soft spot for my 17-year-old screw-up self. That's when we first met, though it definitely took some time before I managed to ask her out on a date.
Mr. Holden shook his head, the smile melting as his recollection became solemn once more.
And then we'd only officially been together for about 6 months when we found out we were having a baby. I was so worried, so scared, but she was so brave.
Oh, so Cove was born as a teen parent. Oof.
Wait, what was that?
So pretty much, so basically, Clift and Kyra were only about 18 when they had Cove. That's just.
Oh. So out of wedlock, too.
Yeah, and they were only 6 months dating, and then they find out, yeah, she's pregnant.
Jesus.
Yeah. It's really hitting some real world stuff, though, just saying.
Well, yeah.
I mean, because I remember when I was in high school, there were a couple kids I remember seeing who were pregnant, so.
That's not even getting into my friggin' high school friends. That's anyway. She was my rock, but we both knew the road ahead was going to be rockier. When we got married, I didn't see it as a dream come true. I wasn't about to start living my life in the only way I could imagine doing so. I thought what happened, happened, and throwing my cards in with a girl like her was worth the risk.
He grimaced, the sentence soured in his mouth, regretting his past perspective.
I've been taking care of myself on my own and getting by, then all of a sudden, I was gonna have a wife and a child.
That's...
So I thought, alright, I better step things up and take care of all of us. And that's what I did. Sort of.
He rolled his eyes.
I made money, kept a roof over our heads, and put food on the table. But I was always busy, focused on taking care of things, that I didn't stop to consider what anyone else was thinking or what they actually needed. I made every decision about what I did, and as a result, what happened to the family, by myself. Never asking what your mom felt, or even wondering if she might have an opinion. I'd tell Kyra about the great place I'd found and how we'd be moving there in the same breath. Or that I'd spent all our savings and taken out a loan to start this business we're standing in, and even more nonsense. Anything I felt I needed to do, I did. Kyra couldn't even ask where I'd been all day without me rolling my eyes like she was being a nag. I was making sure we didn't starve, obviously, right? Couldn't she trust me?
He sighed, his head hung low.
God.
She went to school part-time while raising you, really knuckling down, but that didn't matter to me back then. She could have spent her days lying in bed and not dying, and I would have felt the same. I didn't care. I was going to get it all done on my own either way. So stupid. I admired her more than anyone when there was nothing at stake, yet as soon as responsibilities were involved, I couldn't let myself rely on her.
Just hang on, just one save, just in case.
Yeah, of course.
He combed a hand through his hair, searching for an understanding of his own younger self.
I'm not even sure why. Maybe I had something to prove. Maybe I'm the one who didn't trust her in the end. Poor Kyra. She had to spend every day mentally weighing the pros and cons of putting up with my horrible ideas for the sake of peace, or trying to explain to my blockheaded self what I was doing wrong. It must have been so stressful and frustrating, constantly having to let everything go because I was stubborn and absolutely would make a fight out of it.
He snorted bitterly.
I was definitely stuck in my head a lot of those days. Our relationship at that point was made of arguments and cool tolerance, but I still genuinely didn't see the divorce coming. We made it through the first few years, and after that, I never really considered it ending. It was just how life was. In retrospect, it's clear Kyra kept thinking on it more every year, especially because she managed to finish her journalism degree, and with us being more stable, financially that is. She thought of everything. She even timed it right when your school ended for the year, so the process would hopefully be all settled when you had to worry about class again. We were already talking about it before the accident ever happened. I know I took it really hard, being a sad sack all around the neighborhood, but even that is unfair of me. When it shook out, I'm the one who got everything. Kyra didn't want to leave you, Cove. She never would have. I'm certain she felt like she had no choice but to end the relationship. The business was doing really well by then, so I had an easier time making a living. She was between jobs, and when she did get a new job, it meant that she'd be traveling all the time. That's why she willingly accepted me having full custody. She didn't get to be there with her child for so many moments, and you had to spend half of your life growing up without your mother, and it's my fault.
Mr. Holden closed his eyes briefly as he took in a breath.
That's it. Story of Cliff and Kyra's marriage. Not exactly a fairy tale, but I want to be clear.
He saw his grip on Cove's arms tighten.
No matter what happened with me and her, I'd never, ever want to miss out on being your dad.
Cove's throat bobbed as he swallowed. His eyes glistened, glossy with tears that had yet to fall. He blinked quickly, trying to hold them back.
Thank you for telling me.
His voice was hoarse, little more than a whisper. Mr. Holden brought a hand up to his face and lightly nudged Cove's chin.
You're welcome. You're a grown-up now, right? You deserve the truth. That's the least I can do for you.
Cove managed a fragile smile.
Thank you for taking care of me. For all of it.
Mr. Holden brushed the compliment off with a wave of his hand.
No worries.
It was nothing. Look at where we ended up. I've got this whole entire store, a house, friends here, a very thoughtful son. It's all good for me.
I'm so glad.
I'm glad.
His voice was still quiet as he ducked his head shyly after saying the words. Mr. Holden patted him on the back. You could see the tears in Cove's eyes still shining, threatening to spill over. Mr. Holden put an arm around his shoulders, gently steering him towards the door.
You... you should go have fun. Make some nice memories.
Cove's gaze flicked over to you, the watery smile on his face solidified.
Alright.
Good. Now you go.
Mr. Holden nudged the two of you out of the shop.
Mate.
You both walked silently as you made your return to the docks. Cove's face was pensive, clearly still digesting everything his dad said. He finally sighed, catching her attention. He hesitantly reached for the bag he had brought and raised it up.
Susan.
Susan, I want to call my mom. I'm not gonna leave her out of things, and I want to know what she thinks about what happened and all of that.
He fiddled with the scraps of his bags, still remaining closed shut.
It's not like I don't trust Dad, it's just Mom's thoughts are important too.
So Susan gets a dialogue dump now. Good, I need to hydrate after this.
I get it, Cove. There's two sides to every story after all. You seemed relieved that you understood. You knew you didn't want to be a bother with another delay.
Thanks. Then I guess there's no time like the present. Time to ask.
With that mini pep talk, he finally opened his bag and found his phone. Cove unlocked it quickly and tapped over to his favorite contacts. He called up his mom and put the phone on speaker as it dialed. Kyra must have had her phone close because she answered almost immediately.
Cove.
Cove, this is a pleasant surprise. I thought you'd be getting back to me later.
Hey, Mom.
He paused for a second, then looked at you.
You're on speakerphone with Susan too.
Hello. Oh, hello. I'm popular today. Well, what's going on? Don't keep me in suspense. Are you a pro jet skier already? Cove chuckled and scratched at the back of his head.
We haven't started yet. Actually, there's something I kind of want to ask you about.
Really?
Really? I'm intrigued. Her voice was bright and excited. Cove moved the phone closer to his face so she could speak softly. He could speak softly, aware that the tone of this conversation was about to change.
Really?
I was talking to Dad earlier. It was about your relationship and why you both divorced.
Ah! That one syllable lost all her earlier energy. Cove tightened his grip on his phone. It does make sense that the past would come up today.
Yeah, but
He tried to brighten the mood again. You weren't used to him being the perky one of the two. You could only imagine it felt like a strange role reversal for him.
Dad said you were really amazing. He admired you a lot.
What a flatterer. She sighed wistfully, and you could hear some interference. Maybe she had shaken her head. You couldn't tell for sure. Oh, Cliff. He bungled himself through regular, everyday adulting and social situations in astoundingly charming ways. Yet, somehow at the exact same time, he was an ambitious, slightly shady, under-the-table type of man when it came to making his living in the world. So essentially, your father was an absolute heartthrob for someone such as myself. Cove and Kyra laughed delicately. The tension was broken into something lighter, more familiar between the two.
It's cool you both have nice things to say about each other.
I agree, baby. She took a moment before continuing carefully. Do you have questions about what happened?
I'm not sure.
Cole squinted through the phone in his hands. He tried to think, his free hand brushing through his hair.
I just kind of wanted to know how you described what it was like. Could I tell you what Dad said about it?
All right.
I don't think Cliff would mind. Whatever he told you is probably what he'd say to me. Alright, go for it. After taking a breath, Cole recapped Cliff's experience, doing his best to follow his dad's story. He went into a surprising amount of detail and not a single thing was missed. Kyra listened on in absolute silence, letting her son speak without interruption. When Cove finished, she took another deep inhale of air.
So, what do you think?
Kyra sighed softly. You heard a clacking noise as she was drumming her nails on the back of her phone or her countertop. That definitely sounds like Clifford. It's not exactly wrong, but he doesn't have a total picture. He put the emphasis on the wrong places, I think.
Huh?
Huh? What do you mean?
For starters, Cliff surprisingly downplayed himself more than he had to.
He did?
Cole's eyebrows raised and his face continued to inch even closer to the screen.
Well,
Since your dad was so praising of me, it's only fair to return the favor. When Cliff said he was already taking care of himself when he met me, he means that he was on his own. Cliff's own parents weren't, and still aren't, friendly people. They've always had a combative relationship, though him getting into drinking and gambling as a teenager certainly didn't help. He knew they'd kick him out at 18, so he saved him the trouble and left home at 17. He always found a way to make it work, even without support. I met him a few months after that. We hit it off right away. He was exactly what I wanted back then. We dated, and then about a year and a half later, BAM! You were on the way, Cove. She laughed fondly as Clove clung to every word. I was really optimistic about it all. I couldn't wait to be a mother, and I was more than happy that Cliff was the father who would be along for the ride. We got married quick, before you were born. Cliff's recollection of our wedded dynamic is pretty spot on. He was extremely stubborn and just, well, immature. Highly immature. Her voice raised slightly, and you got the feeling she was thinking back to her memories living with him. She left the specifics unspoken. But it's not like I was grown up either. Everyone, except maybe Cliff, could see our relationship was no good, or at least not good enough yet to commit to. I knew, but I didn't want to give it up. I wanted to keep the family together. I thought that if we divorced or we were never together, then we'd ruin your life, Cove. Obviously, that wasn't true. I just didn't have enough experience at the time to realize there wasn't only one option for us. Just doing a save.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Maybe things would have been easier on you if we had split when you were still a baby, but it took me years to start figuring it all out. Cove nodded. Even if his mom couldn't see it, thinking hard about something. He was likely remembering his own experience back then. We were married, but never seriously loved each other. We hardly knew each other. I don't mind that Cliff never viewed marrying me as some kind of dream come true. I honestly just appreciate that he tried giving me my hastily made life plan a shot. I was the one who proposed, after all. Got down on one knee and everything. She huffed slightly, something between a chuckle and a sigh. It's very funny and a little sad that Cliff still doesn't know why things changed between us. It's obvious to me, and I guess he does know deep down. He just never consciously made the connection.
It's alright.
I'm not mad he didn't stay the same towards me. Love makes everything different.
But you said...
Oh, hold on a minute. Someone's in chat.
Oh.
Hi, gamer. Hope you're enjoying
Hey,
Elden
gamer.
Ring.
Oh, yeah, sounds good.
I know what I said. She interrupted before Cole could even finish his blurred-out interjection. I don't mean Cliff and I. We were just two kids in a relationship that only ever worked when it was its easiest. And then when you were born, little Cove James Holden, I loved you immediately, and so did your father. Cove was stunned. His eyes started watering as his mouth clamped shut. The inclination we had towards each other paled in our face of that. Our love to you was the real deal. Cliff was the proudest papa. Then, in true Cove fashion, tears began to fall. He stayed silent, but you were pretty sure Kyra knew that the effect her words had on her son. No matter how much time passed, Cliff never got over how amazing it was that such a precious little boy was his. I should have taken pictures of how he puffed up whenever someone referred to you as his son. She sounded much cheerier now, a slight smile carved on Cove's face despite the tears. Then again, he still does that now. It wasn't hard to imagine Mr. Holden lighting up around baby Cove the same way he did with 18-year-old Cove. I remember how when a real argument started brewing, Cliff had a habit of walking away to cool off. He wasn't able to handle it. His son seems to have taken after him in that way. You heard her chuckle, and Cove looked down and blush clear on his cheeks. You could just feel her smirk through the phone. She breezed over the next section airily. Well, for our whole relationship, he always ended fights by skipping out on me for who knew how long. I don't even think Cliff knew when he'd come back. That stopped when you were born. Cliff stopped running. He was still gone a lot for work, and we still had fights, but he wouldn't leave. Instead, he'd go to your room, Cove. If you were asleep, he'd just sulk on the ground by your crib until you woke up. Sometimes he'd pace the room while holding you, or sit on the floor and rock you. He'd stay with you until one of us decided we were ready to talk again. We didn't have a lot of furniture back then. That's part of the reason why Cliff was always hanging out on the floor. He came to really embrace it. When our relationship had got bad enough that we didn't want to share a bed anymore, he always made sure I got to have the mattress. Instead, he set up a spot in the corner of the nursery just in case you needed anything through the night. He gave you more private space when you got bigger, but he still always made sure he could be there for you. There's still no denying whether Cliff understands or not. He made his choices without prioritizing me, but it wasn't that he suddenly hated me. To Cliff, I was only a wife on paper. In his mind, I was a cool girl he had dated and generally liked, nothing close to being in the light of his life. All his blood, sweat, and tears weren't for himself, or me, or even the family unit. They were all completely and totally for his baby. Meanwhile, I was doing the same, though in the opposite way. I did take us being married seriously. I was trying to force us together as a couple so we could be a complete family for our child. He felt like a fly on the wall of a very personal conversation. Cove didn't seem to notice when you looked over at him, his face a complicated patchwork of emotions.
I guess.
Eventually, I woke up and saw what I was doing. I realized it wasn't going to work. Not like that. When I was ready for it, I talked to Clint about separating and started up the divorce process. He was shocked by it, and unfortunately it wasn't too long after that when you had your accident, Cove. Susan, I don't know how much Cove has really told you about it, but when he broke his arm, it terrified us all. Cove could have died, even back then. We knew he'd likely have a permanent scar, like he'd have to live with forever. Our parenting hurt our child, and he was the one who had to carry the repercussions. You were taken a bit back to be referred to directly. You still felt a little out of place, and she seemed completely focused on her son. Cove grimaced at the hand holding up his phone shook.
Mom.
Kyra continued as she had never paused. It was heartbreaking, and on top of it all, we had to put you through your parents' breakup. Taking that back wasn't an option, despite the timing. It felt like everything we worked so hard for to make you happy was for nothing. I chose to believe we'd fix our lives from there, but to Cliff it seemed hopeless. He failed his son. It was easier for me in some ways. I had my family to lean on. That made it feel less daunting, less impossible. Cliff only had ever really known being on his own, by the happenstance of his birth, and then by choice. When we broke up, he knew he was going to have to put back the pieces of what was left, alone. I wanted to be there for him, even after everything, but I was the one divorcing him. It was impossible. I never managed to be someone he truly relied on, and I had to remember that wasn't changing. As bleak as it felt at the time, Cliff still tried to not let any of that show to you, Cove. He did what he could to keep your spirits high about the move, your new house, the scar, everything.
Hey, so that's why.
Cove trailed off. He had misunderstood the impact his injury had on his parents. You're reminded of something that made more sense now. Mr. Holden had been so helpful with Cove's old Halloween costume because he didn't want Cove to be saddened by the scar. It was clear Clove was coming to the same realizations.
Now, with that all I said, if Cliff was a completely perfect and wonderful guy, I wouldn't have left him. If it was even pretty good, I would have stayed. It was hard not to have normal custody. Sometimes I felt like I was a fun aunt rather than the mom I always wanted to be. I might have overcompensated a little at times because of that.
She forced a laugh but had an uncomfortable edge to it. You could tell she was trying to blow off a very real anxiety of hers. Cove looked ready to say something, but his mom kept talking, kept moving forward.
Still, it's not Cliff's fault alone that our relationship didn't work. We were always better as co-parents than spouses, but I knew when separating that it wasn't going to be even. And Cove, the only reason I could stand not being there for you all the time is because I knew that if the situation was reversed and I could have provided a more stable environment, Cliff would have done the same. Your dad would give up his house, his shop, even his right arm, who would guarantee that you were safe and happy. So, as painful as it was, I was sure you'd be okay because you were still with someone who loved you more than anything else in the world.
Cove lowered his head, tears falling to the ground. He tried to speak. It took him a few tries.
Thank you for telling me.
His voice cracked and Kyra made an alarm sound on the other end of the line.
Oh, I'm sorry, baby. I didn't mean to make you cry.
I get it.
It's okay.
He was still crying. Everyone could tell, being physically present or not.
I love you, Mom. You've always been my mom. Not some aunt. My mom.
I love you too.
Her tone was thick with emotion. She was at the edge of a voice break herself.
I'm so lucky to be your mom.
She started to sniffle openly.
Don't worry about that. Don't feel bad for me with how it worked out. I promise that none of it was your fault. It's not as though I'm completely miserable over here. I have an incredible life with a beautiful baby boy of my own who calls me whenever he can.
At that, Cove's tears only came down heavier.
Oh, jeez. Thank you.
Remember when this was about jet skis?
Kyra sighed affectionately, and you could hear the warmth in her voice.
I think that's good for now. Maybe we should end the call. Take a moment.
Is that really alright?
He tightened his grip on his phone. You could see how emotionally exhausted he looked.
Of course. Of course. We'll be in touch soon. For now, you'll only be able to keep thanking me or apologizing.
Hey!
Hey!
Cole cried out defensively over the accusation, making his mom snicker.
Bye! And goodbye to you too, Susan. I'm glad you're there for my baby. See you.
Bye, Mom. I love you.
Love you too.
Cove hung up. He let his hand drop to the side, his own brushing the fabric of his wetsuit. His other hand went up to his face. He tried to wipe the tears from his eyes. His face was red and he struggled to put his phone back in his bag one-handed. You could tell he was getting worked up. He finally just used both of his hands to seal the phone back into its normal place. Cole sniffled and then reached out for you. His hand traveled in your grasp and you squeezed back. He needed to feel your support.
You want to go see your dad again?
He didn't have to tell you what was on his mind for this. Cove nodded, his head weakly. You rushed back the way you came, feet pounding across the boards of the dock to return to the scuba shop for the third time.
Third time's the charm.
You reached his dad's store and Cove still wasn't slowing down. He pushed his way through the door at full speed. His hand released yours as he charged in. Mr. Holden had been walking around the middle of the store checking over things. Immediately he turned at the sound.
What's wrong?
What? Where's the fire?
He froze when he got a look at Cove's face. He worried he'd open his mouth, probably to ask what was wrong, but then Cove launched himself at his father. Cove threw his arms around Mr. Holden's neck. He buried his face in his dad's shoulder and started to sob with deep, hitching breaths. Cliff clearly had no idea what was going on, and his hands hovered awkwardly in the air. He took you for a brief second, hoping for understanding before turning all his attention on Cove. He wrapped both his arms around Cove's back, Cove secured in his father's embrace, protected and safe.
It's okay. It'll be okay. Whatever it is, it's gonna be okay.
Cove kept crying. He inhaled deeply, his voice choking up whenever he tried to speak.
I'm so sorry.
You always try to be there for me.
when I was growing up and I was mean to you. I'm sorry.
What?
Wait, what? You look so unamused.
Mr. Holden was completely taken aback. He hadn't expected this to be the issue.
You don't have to apologize for that, bud. Kids are allowed to be mad at their parents. It's my job to take care of you. I really didn't do anything special.
Cove shook his head as empathetically as he could while still tucked it in against his dad.
You've always supported me no matter what. You've always loved me. I wish I realized how much you did sooner.
Cove squeezed him tighter.
Thank you. I love you, Dad.
At his son's heartfelt confession, the father became choked up as well. He compressed Cove into a crushing hug.
I do love you. I always will. You can count on that. I want to be there for you too.
They clung on to each other, absorbed in the moment. Then after a little while longer, they slowly began to loosen their hold. Cole sniffled and moved so he could use his palm to wipe away his tears. His dad shirt was busily damp where his face had been. Cliff patted the top of Cole's shoulders. He looked at his son with pride.
You've grown up so much.
Cole started to laugh through his tears, a wearily smile on his lips. He doubted that Cole would have thought that crying on his dad's shoulder was a sign of maturity, but it was true. Cole had changed over the years. You're glad to see Cole grow. Cole used to cry a lot over his parents, and he still did. Despite the similarity, the defined Cove-ness, there was still a big difference between the two occasions. You were proud of him. Cole wiped at his eyes again.
You're a good dad.
You're a good son.
Mr. Holden was plainly touched by the words, and being his beloved child, Cole looked away and shyly traced his scar. Cliff chuckled and released Cole to rub the back of his neck. The earlier panic had bled off and left the confusion.
I'm glad we had this talk, but what was it that made you cry in the first place? You weren't too bad off when you left before.
Oh,
Cole ducked his head a little further down, getting a very good look at the scuff marks on the floor.
I called Mom. I wanted to talk to her about all this.
He kicked one of his feet shyly, swinging it back and forth against the ground.
Things felt really hard when I was younger, but it wasn't just me going through stuff, Dad. You never give yourself credit.
Cliff smiled gently and gripped Cole's shoulder with reassurance.
Oh. Kyra's an amazing person to come to my defense. For me, the only hard part was seeing you and her unhappy. Everything else, that was nothing.
He wrapped an arm around Cove's neck for another side hug. Cove leaned into the embracing glance up at his dad.
Your old man is tougher than he looks. Look at how powerful these arms are. And this is 10 years on. I was in my prime those days.
Cove laughed. It was a light sound, full of fondness.
Okay.
He quieted down a little, finding a quick moment of seriousness.
Thanks again, Dad. I know you don't want me to feel bad. And I'm happy. Because of everything you and your mom... Because of everything you and Mom did, I have a really nice life.
Mr. Holden's countenance became much more serious. He didn't take what he said lightly.
Cove, you're very welcome. That's so good to hear.
Then he let Cove go again. This time they both took a step back to their normal proximity. Mr. Holden cleared his throat. He looked at you right in the eyes.
That's a relief.
I also appreciate that you were here for support, Susan. What a loyal partner.
Cove looked back down, embarrassed.
I'm glad I could be here.
When Cove stopped staring at the floor, you smiled at him. Cliff smiled warmly. He nudged Cove as if to say, "Look how lucky you are."
Hey, maybe I ought to give you another 20 for all this. You put up with a lot over the years.
Cove turned to you, shaking his head.
I told you that you had a bad deal.
No.
But seriously, Dad, you have to stop offering her money.
Not this again. He suddenly remembered how weird it was the first time. It really didn't need to be repeated.
Sure.
Okay. I'll leave making jokes about that to go.
Cove smiled, satisfied at that.
All right.
Cove exhaled slowly, his posture relaxing.
We better get going. You still have work, Dad, and I think Susan's been patient enough. I didn't bring her here to watch me cry to my parents.
Cliff grinned and waved the two of you off.
Sure thing. I'm happy you both stopped in, but you gotta go have some fun. Be careful out there. Um, I don't need to go jet skiing anymore. Susan, if you still want to go, I don't mind watching. No way! You're a mature young man. If you want to jet ski, then you should go out and jet ski. I'll still be here if you need anything, right? Yeah. Okay.
Bye.
Cove waved to his dad as he started walking out. You followed. When he turned back to Mr. Holden before he went out the door, he was waving.
Bye, kids. You'll do great.
Once again, as had become today's habit, you and Cove walked down the dock side by side. But this time, Cove had a bounce back in his step. His smile was soft but radiant.
Thanks for staying, and sorry for how long it took.
Hmm. You're welcome.
It wasn't a problem to be there for him. He sidestepped, leaning closer, and he wrapped his arms around you. You relaxed into his embrace as he held you tightly. You hugged him back. You could smell the scent of the ocean on the breeze, and felt the warmth on his chest. He exhaled and took a step back, his face a dazzling smile. The water lapped at the dock beneath your feet. Cove looked down where a particularly strong wave crashed against it.
It's weird to think about my parents' relationship. There's all this stuff that I don't know because I wasn't there, or because I was a kid, or because I didn't even exist yet. It feels really complicated.
Relationships are complicated.
You agree with him. Connections to other people were as varied as there were waves in the ocean. Cove nodded without elaboration. He looked down into the ocean wistfully for a moment before he shook it off.
It's nice.
I'm happy they were married, even if they didn't stay together in the end.
I'm glad you're feeling better.
Let's ask him about marriage.
Oh my god.
Go.
Speaking of marriage,
Cole's eyes widened curiously as he turned to face you.
are you scared of it because of everything that happened with your parents?
You talked about your future together before, but now that you have more context for what Cove experienced in his family, you couldn't help but ask specifically about marriage. Cove shook his head slightly. He didn't hesitate for a second.
No, surprisingly, I don't have issues about the idea of getting married someday.
You looked at him, not bothering to hide your intrigue. He chuckled self-consciously at the reaction he got.
I mean,
Don't get me wrong, trying to actually propose would be terrifying. I'm sure planning a whole wedding would be so hard, especially for me, but just the thought of having someone I loved that I was married to, that I spend the rest of my life with, that doesn't scare me. It makes me happy to think about.
Both of you snuck smiles at each other. The colors of his cheeks deepened as his voice grew smaller.
Are you thinking about how you might want to get married sometime?
Yes, I'd like to get married eventually.
It was brave to admit that to Cove of all people. You may not have been filled in the final blanks, but you both knew these words meant marrying him is what you wanted.
Cool. It's cool. Marriage is, nice.
He let out a trembling laugh and desperately searched for a way to calm his obviously rising nervous tide. He settled on changing the subject.
All right, no more distractions. Let's go. It's time to jet ski.
Yeah, let's do it!
The two began to move quickly to make your way across the boards. Despite your excitement, you both were careful. Neither of you wanted an accident, especially after what happened with Cove's first jet skiing trip. You finally got to the rental place. You were surprised at how easy the process was. It took no time at all for Cove to climb on his jet ski with shaky legs. Let's run my own too. You spent the entire time wanting the jet ski and were thrilled to finally climb onto one. It was lime green with blue detailing. The jet ski rocked slightly as you got on, bobbing with the waves. He looked across to Cove. He sat motionlessly to try his jet ski, preparing himself to start it up. Even from your distance, you could tell his hands were clamped onto the handles too tightly. He was stiff and nervous.
You'll be alright, Cove. Trust yourself.
He took a deep breath. You could see the rise and fall of his chest.
thanks.
Thanks, Susan.
He inhaled slowly and started up the jet ski. It roared forward, and you were surprised you could hear him squeak over the sound of the engine. He stopped after a few seconds and breathed again. After he calmed down, he started it up once more. Cole sputtered and stalled with it for a while, going a little farther each time. He grew more comfortable with the feel. Cole eventually reached the point where he only stopped the jet ski when he had something to say. He kept shouting things at you.
This is amazing! Did you see that, Susan? This is so great!
You got your own jet ski going as well. You made sure to keep a safe distance. Cole watched what you did with enthusiasm.
Nice turn!
He zoomed forward and you can hear his bright light ring across the waves. You were relieved he'd taken it so well. I was nervous. Knowing that jet skis could be dangerous, he kept a healthy caution over the vehicle. It was tricky at the start. You drove it in short bursts, since each time you were made to go forward it seemed much too fast. You were worried that you were going to fly off the jet ski or flip over. The jet ski would flip over. However, it didn't take you long to realize you had decent control over the vehicle. You grew a little more comfortable with the controls and let yourself relax a little. Eventually, the sun set and you had to pack up. Cole was thankfully still in one piece. No cast necessary. After everything was returned, Cove dug out his phone of his bag and texted his parents to let them know about his triumph. I needed to take a photo hit to mark the occasion struck Cove, and he wanted you to join him in the selfie. He smiled. You both grinned as he took the picture. It was a nice shot with the ocean stretching behind you. His phone vibrated after only a moment after texting it out. Mr. Holden and Kara had likely been waiting the entire day to find out how the outing would go. And with the news of his success, both of Cove's parents sent back how proud they were of Cove for how far he'd come. Watching him grinning in the settings after facing so many fears that day, you felt the same.
Whew.
Oh my god.
Yeah, that was a lot.
Okay. Oh my god. Oh god. Wait. I need a stretch. Wait. Oh god, my throat's dry.
Oh, jeez.
Okay, how about we take a quick minute break? I need to get more water. You go
Alright.
do the same, because I think you need it too. We both...
Alright.
What a memento, guys. I'll be right back.
Okay. Can we get much higher? So high, ho ho, ho ho.
I'm back.
Welcome back.
Blech. Whew, man. That last one really took a lot out of both of us.
Yeah.
It's a matter how that's gonna be when the Danganronpa stuff comes back up.
Yeah, that's gonna be,
I actually checked they have been updating the story, even though it's been a slow process, but it has updated, but still not to a good point to where we can...
Okay.
Bless you.
Thank you.
I'm honestly kind of still out of breath, though, honestly.
Fair.
Hmm. I'm bored. Hi. Hope everybody's enjoying the stream so far. Holy jeez. Honestly, I'm drained out after that. Holy god. Whew, I think that's the first time we both did so much talking in that one thing, huh?
Yeah.
I have somebody I want to go to, but they're not going to be live for another hour. But I still... So how about we do this last late shift story, and then we'll call it a stream.
Okay.
Because hopefully by then my target will be live. Hopefully they're supposed to be live tonight because it's Wednesday. It is Wednesday, right?
Today is Wednesday, yes.
Okay, perfect. So,
Hello, Patchy.
Hey, Pachi.
cute. I love the wiggle emotes. I don't know if you've been here long, Patchy, but we had, woof. That reflection story took a lot out of both of us.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
gonna be fun for the VOD.
let's go. Late shift.
Alright.
After lunch, you ran into Baxter. He was more than happy for an impromptu hangout in your neighborhood. Yeah, do you remember how Baxter sounds?
Kind of. Also, I'm surprised I showed up at this point, considering, my DLC is not even out yet. We'll
Yeah, they
get to you
spoke-
later, Baxter. Anyways.
Yeah, I at least spoke about the first time he brought a shirt online. Apparently, the website hadn't been in English, so he had to make do with automatic online translations. His unique facts and sense was elect in more than one way. Finding out how he filled out his wardrobe answered some of your questions about his looks. He smiled fondly in remembrance.
I measured myself multiple times to make sure I could order the correct size. Wasn't, as if I'd be able to ship it back if there were problems. But to make a long story short, it arrived in one piece, multiple months later. At that point, I wasn't going to complain. It was a physical object in my hands.
You know, I kind of relate to that, actually. Because,
I wonder why.
I mean, my Hololive, my Holostars merch, like, when I got my Tempest merch, my Tempest stuff was ordered in July and it didn't get in until, like, literally last week. So, like, literally, like, a few days after the new year. So, I can understand the wait.
And this is why I don't order from China on eBay for Pokemon plushies anymore, because it takes way too long.
You should see the price of the Holostars plushies that they have on eBay. It's ridiculous. Almost $100, and it's like $70 for the plush, and then another $20 something for shipping. So,
Oh, you want to talk weird prices? Don't get me started on Etsy.
speaking of, I actually got Holostars more stuff on Etsy too, including Tempest.
Hmm.
He gestured with his arm for emphasis as he did. Baxter glanced at his wrist at a watch that wasn't there.
Anyway, I hope I'm not taking too much of your time with this.
You were currently taking it easy for a bit before you had to get ready for work. You had an unusual closing shift at your job today.
Actually, I do have to get going soon. I have a closing shift at work. Normally, I don't close today. I don't know if someone's out or what. It is what it is. Cole's already working. He said he used to serve at the tropical place. I think he found a good option for himself, especially with how limited jobs are in this town. He can usually take later shifts so he has mornings free, so both of us are pretty much booked for this evening once I get to work.
Master not understanding, he was more interested than you had expected him to be.
So, what do you do?
I work at the library.
Working at the same job would just be weird.
Right.
I mean, I kind of want to see what it looks like at the same job, but
Eh,
grinned
it's
as
always
you-
another playthrough.
he grinned as you had just said you had an exciting career as a movie star.
Interesting.
Well,
Now that I know where and when you work, does that mean I should avoid visiting the place at that time? Or should I conveniently happen to bump into you during your shift?
You chuckled at his directness. He could really be straightforward at times.
I wouldn't mind seeing you there.
You doubt he would make himself a bother. It could even be fun. He tilted his head with excitement in his eyes.
Then I might have another stop to make on my outing this evening.
Thank you. I gotta go get ready now.
Good luck, Susan.
He waited at you as you peeled off towards your house. You reached your front door and gave Baxter one final nod before you went inside. You prepared on time. You changed into your uniform and assessed yourself in the mirror. You weren't sure your hair was clean. It did not take long to transform yourself into someone work ready. You ate a quick snack before leaving the house. You were right on time for your commute. You made your way to work, walking down familiar streets. You didn't take long to get there, even on foot. You arrived at the building and went in at a leisurely pace. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary that day. Before you fully settled into your shift, you sent a quick text to Cove that you made it to work all right. Your phone buzzed with his response before you had finished showing it in your pocket. Cove sent Back a positive "you can do it" message that made you smile. The first thing you had to deal with was putting away some of the books that someone had left on the study table. Most of them were about bugs, so you took them to the science section.
Oh no, it's Satoshi Tajiri.
You wonder what this person had been researching as you looked at the titles. You slid each book back into place. Maybe it was a science project on insects? You checked out the last book and smiled. You suddenly had a pretty good idea. With the life cycle of lightning bugs safely put back into place, you went on to your next task. Most of working at the library was like that. You put things away, organized, unpacked new arrivals, try to keep the place neat. Sometimes you answered people's questions. You did whatever you were told, really. I was happy with it. You enjoyed what you did, it made you feel productive, and it paid a great job around. After time passed, you got really into your work zone. You barely noticed the hours go by. During a slow moment, you heard a distant and familiar voice.
Hey, excuse me.
You turned your head and saw Baxter sauntering towards you. He really did turn up just to visit.
Hey, Baxter, welcome to my job.
He grinned with a tilt of his head.
Is this a good time?
Yeah, I'm not too busy right now.
Excellent.
Excellent.
You know, you don't always have to voice their lines if they say something, but yeah.
Well, I don't know. Well, I didn't know that time that they were talking. Whoops.
Yeah, it's fine if you're lurking, Pachi. I appreciate all lurkers. You saw his eyes search the place, clearly never having been before. You're both standing in the sci-fi section, surrounded by colorful spines with all their names in large white print. Baxter gave them a cursory glance.
I wonder if I could check something out, despite not being someone who actually lives in this town. I've never been to a local library like this. I've only visited school libraries and privately owned ones. Hey, it's not H.P. Lovecraft.
Really?
You would find it hard to imagine for most people. Somehow, with Baxter, you could actually see it.
Yes, really. Though you never answered my question. Am I able to get something to read for the summer, or am I barred from borrowing?
You can, as long as you get a library
Kind of return the book before you move back. He looked gently excited as he flashed a smile at you.
Then there's only one thing to do. Would you mind helping me get set up?
With that, he slipped back into customer service mode. He raised an eyebrow at your cheery expression.
That won't be a problem at all, sir.
Not bad.
Sir, that works for me.
You and Baxter spent a little more time together chatting about what he should get. Eventually, a decision was made, then he was off to explore more of the town. You were glad he came by. It was a nice break from real customers, but you had to get back to your usual task. You checked a clock set high on the sidewall. With how late it was time for your meal break. You breathed a sigh of relief and left your station. You found a quiet place to eat that was out of eyeshot of most people and pulled out your phone. You typed it out a text to Cove to let him know you were having dinner. You took your first bite of your meal and Cove replied with an "okay." Your phone came back to life again and let you know he had already taken his long break, but he still had a short one he could take. With him on break as well, he asked if he could call. You were happy to have the chance for him to talk. You've been wanting to spend some time with him. He was made aware of that, and he sent back one more text of a thumbs up. Then you got a call. You accepted it as soon as you saw it was Cove.
Hey.
Hey, Susan. Seriously can't go a DLC chapter without me in it.
Hi.
Today's been going by really quickly.
I guess.
In some ways, the routine of your job seemed to make time go by faster. It had become familiar and eased up from when you first started here. Cove laughed quietly.
You should have seen it. When I got to my shift earlier, there was a huge fight going on with the schedule. I just tried to stay out of it. I'm lucky no one else wants to close. Not something I've got to defend. Some shifts are way too competitive.
He shook his head at the memory. He wondered how the shifts had been sorted out in the end. He didn't bother to elaborate further on his workplace drama.
I hope nothing's going on with you. This isn't normally when you'd be working.
I'm getting through it.
He had thought about trying to get out of it, even mentally scripted a reasonable response, but had stayed quiet in the end.
Sorry.
Sorry. At least we're in the same boat.
Sailing the same boat.
Boys! Yeah! It's a reference to it's a reference to Tempest's song. Hee
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Baxter showed up here earlier.
Oh. Well, oh no. It's just too bad I missed him. Super busy with my own work, I guess. It's a shame.
His tone was joking, at least mostly. You shook your head and tried to hide your grin. The conversation drifted off as Cole grew quiet.
I can't stay on too much longer. It's busy.
You imagined he was looking at some kind of clock the same way you had earlier. Cove sighed. The two of you only just started to talk, and yet it was somehow over.
Bye.
Bye.
The word was splat. He was down about leaving. There was a second of silence before he pulled himself together.
We'll have more time later.
Right. Bye.
You let him go and finished up your meal on your own. Just as you were cleaning up, your phone vibrated. Cole found the time to sneak you a quick text. Just a few more hours until closing. You smiled as you finished your break. It was time to get back to work. Customers continued to trickle even though it was getting close to closing time. Before you could jump back to work, you heard your phone quiet jingle in your pocket. It had to be a text message, but there was no way you could check it now. Your phone made another quiet noise, making your hand twitch. Wanting to check it still, it would have to wait. Shaking the distraction off, you quickly fell back into a rhythm of things. There were still plenty of tasks that had to be done. You're filling some papers when you noticed moving out of the corner of your eye. Glancing up, you saw someone stopping at the counter.
Okay.
It's any gender, so on you go ahead with
Okay.
something.
Alright. Screw it. Excuse me, do you have any tissues back there?
Yes we do. I can grab that in just a second.
Turning back to what you were doing, you sorted at a faster pace. When you were almost done, there was a loud thump on the counter. Someone had unceremoniously dumped a stack of books, presumably expecting you to put them away. You tried to spot the culprit, but there wasn't anyone in the sight other than the person from before. They must have not even stopped for a moment to see if you were available to take them. Ultimately, that didn't matter. The books did, and with a frown, you started collecting them all in your arms. When those were out of the way, the quiet sound of fingers tapping brought your attention back to the person waiting for you off to the side. Your face warmed. The last few minutes pushed them completely out of your mind. They were in need of tissues. The box of tissues was in plain sight where you slid into the nearby back room. Seconds later, you're back at the counter with your finest customer service smile. You went over to where the library patron was waiting.
I'm so sorry about the wait.
You held the box of tissues out to them. Their gaze glanced down to the box.
Thanks.
You took a couple tissues and balled them up in their fists. Before you could ask if they needed anything else, they were already walking away. Soon enough, they disappeared between the shelves, and you were already trying to push the whole event out of your mind. You were just glad that the interruption hadn't made you forget what you were doing. Your body was starting to tire out from the busyness of today. Luckily, you had one more short break. You took a seat and finally checked those messages from earlier. They were ones from Mom. Would you mind stopping by the grocery store on the way home to pick up some asparagus and peppers for dinner tomorrow? Can't make it myself. Deadlines are tight right now. Thank you. Have a great day. Make a note of that. Asparagus and peppers. I sighed. Well, the request couldn't have been worse. It was still just another thing piled on your plate. Your limbs instantaneously felt heavier and lethargic. After taking a couple breaths, you sent back a simple response. Okay. You weren't expecting her to text back anytime soon, though you did already get a thanks for it. There was no reason at this point to check the other messages you got earlier. A fond smile spread across your face and your heart fluttered in your chest when you read it. It was from Cove. Just a few more hours until closing, you can do it. You knew that Cove was supposed to be busy working too, and yet you still found a moment to sneak in a text. Not a bit of that surprised you. You messaged back. Same. Cove briefly responded seconds later. Aww. Cute. You checked her wondering how his day was going in comparison to yours. We can talk after the shift.
Talk to you when I'm off.
Yeah. After that, you slipped your phone back into your pocket, texting with Cole easily lifted your spirits tenfold, and you felt ready to tackle the rest of your shift. He was always there for you when you needed him, no matter what. The thought brought him a warm smile to your face. For another minute, you stretched your arms high over your head, imagining how nice falling into bed later would be. You sighed. Hopefully your shift would go by in the blink of an eye. You jumped back into the rhythm of things. The last of the customers had finally exited the building. It was time to close. When all the doors were locked, you exhaled loudly. The whole place was officially closed. You felt relieved. It was like you could finally reach the light at the end of the tunnel. There were too many moments where you seriously questioned if you ever reached this moment. When you were shuffling around the closing up shop, you had a call come in. It was Cove. You knew that he had spent the majority of his day working overtime. You hadn't even been sure if you heard from him. You picked up his call immediately.
Hey, just finished. You?
Yeah. How are you doing?
I'm good enough.
You could hear the exhaustion in Cove's answer.
Oh, are you heading home now?
Actually, I have to run an errand for my mom.
Where to?
Grocery store. Mom texted me earlier asking if I'd pick up a couple things.
Oh,
Oh,
Would you want to come too?
It was late. You knew that Cove wanted to go home, but admittedly you wanted company. He eased that concern by speaking softly.
sure. Yeah, I can go shopping with you. You walked, right?
Mm-hmm.
Want me to drive you?
Yeah, that would make things a lot easier.
No problem.
It's nice of you to do this.
not really.
Not really. I like spending time with you.
Thanks, I like that too.
Moments later, you had your things together and were ready to swing by the store. You were out the door within minutes. Cole pulled into one of the many free parking spots at the neighborhood 24-hour grocery store. Car doors were propped open and you got out at the same time. There was a salty smell in the air as you strolled through the dim parking lot. A local burger joint on the other side of the pavement guaranteed the place always smelled like fries. Your eyes squinted at the change of lighting when you made it inside the building. The automatic door shut behind you. You truly having arrived, Cove raised his brow curiously.
So?
So, what are we here for again?
Asparagus and peppers. It's for something my moms are making tomorrow.
Sounds good. This'll be a short trip.
Uh-huh.
You idly scanned the front room for a basket you could use. A full cart wasn't necessary. Not responsible. It is a recent change that you want to fully embrace. You spot the baskets and caught a glimpse of yourself while looking down to pick up one.
You know, feels funny to be in some other store while in a uniform from a different place.
Cove snickered while sliding up beside you.
Right?
Right? It's like we're wearing a costume after Halloween is over, but I just hope no one thinks we work here. The uniform is totally different, but you never know.
Yeah, people.
Basket in hand, you ambled towards the vegetable section. It was set near the back, visible right from the entrance. Cove matched your pace, keeping up at your side. The asparagus was simple enough to select. You simply picked up a bundle that looked fresh. All that's up was the peppers. There was a wrinkle in that plan.
What color did they want?
She didn't say.
Then what are we gonna do? The color definitely matters.
I'll text her.
He nodded, satisfied with your solution. You tried to fish out your phone while bouncing the basket. Cole held a hand out to take it. He accepted the help. With both answers, you were able to type out a brief message to ask about pepper colors. Then you stared waiting at the screen. Cole hovered nearby to peek over your shoulder. The reply icon appeared and you felt Cole leaning closer. Just a regular green one is what she sent back.
Alright, that's easy.
And he was right. You picked up the requested green peppers, tossing a few into the basket.
Yeet!
Produce acquired. All that was left was to go through the line, but as you approached the cash register, Cove stopped in his tracks.
Oh, while we're here, I want to get something too. I need fruit for breakfast tomorrow. But what should I have?
You glanced back unsuredly at the section you just left.
I can go back to look with you.
I coaxed a small smile from Cove. His tension eased.
Sorry.
Thanks, Susan, and sorry.
It's fine. We can take a little more time to do this.
Cove graciously led you back to the fruit stands. He let his eyes wander across all the options, seriously considering his decision. Not bothering to rest, he walked up and down the produce aisle for the second time that trip. Finally, something caught his attention. Transparent cases containing fresh blueberries. Cove grinned.
That's it. It'll be perfect for tomorrow.
Great.
Despite the suddenness of how it happened, you were genuinely glad Cove was able to get something nice for himself during the visit to the store. It made the trip even more worthwhile. Cove carried his food himself, and the two of you went back to get a spot in line. After that, you completed separate orders from what you were getting. The produce was packed away into paper bags. There was one for you and one for Cove. You both had what you needed in hand. The errand was finished. You walked across the lane to the store to reach the doors closest to where you had parked. You and Cove stepped back into the night. Cove slightly swung his bag back and forth as you peered, squinting into the dark parking lot. He smiled slightly, gentle expression on his lips.
Thanks for inviting me to the grocery store.
Thanks for keeping me company.
You're welcome. We should do this again.
After a moment of walking further into the parking lot, he sighed mildly. As nice as Cove was about this, he had to be tired after working a full shift.
Oh, it's been a long day.
Yeah.
That very exchange really summed it up. Cove shook his head to himself. The amusement replaced his worn-down expression.
When did a busy day go from having way too many ways to we wanted to play or having extra homework to having to spend all day at a job and then running errands after?
When we became grown-ups.
This is the true adult experience? Working, buying food, and then squeezing in human interaction while you're doing other productive stuff? Well, I guess kid me did always think older people spent their lives at a job. I was right all along.
He laughed, and you had to agree. Cove's eyes narrowed, his mouth opened slightly. He was having a thought.
I think?
Your mom's need the stuff for tomorrow's dinner, not tonight, right?
Uh-huh.
And nothing's frozen, so you don't need to get it home urgently or anything. Would you want to go across the parking lot to that fast food place? We could get something. You know it's still open. Doesn't matter how late it is. It might be nice.
He perked up at the suggestion. It sounded like fun.
Alright, let's go for it.
Let's drop the groceries off, then we can go.
He agreed, and Cove strolled over to the cars, buoyed at the thought of something to look forward to. He placed his bag in the back of his car and then let you store yours inside as well. With the groceries taken care of, it was a short walk to the burger joint. There were 3 cars lined up in the drive-thru, which wasn't too bad. He had to go all the way around the building to get to the front entrance, but soon you were under another set of bright fluorescent lights. Luckily, there was no light inside the building, so you stepped right up to the counter. You glanced over at the menu. You remembered eating here before with Cove back when Kyra had taken you both years ago. The menu looked pretty much the same from what you could remember. It was missing the mozzarella sticks, but most of the other items were familiar. Hello, what would you like to order?
Yes, hello. I like one of everything on your dessert menu.
You gave him an "Are you serious?" look.
Bruh.
Pressed a hand against the back of his head, and his polite smile for the employee bent.
Mom rubbed off on me.
He was reminiscing on that visit, too. After that, the cashier made sure Cove was being serious. It was your time to order. You got... yummy. Let's see.
And you got on Cove's case.
Well, I mean, there's so much. I want a burger with cheese, French fries, a milkshake, and a cookie. That's it. Cole gave you a little thumbs up. He wasn't the only one indulging. You wrapped up the ordering process, paid, got the number 264, and then cleaned the table. You sat across from Cove in a booth where you both had a good view of the front counter. It was nice to have the pick of the place.
Thanks for doing this, Cove.
Don't worry about it. I wanted to do it too.
Then you took out your phone to text your moms about your delay home. You didn't want them to worry. Cove watched you before pulling out his phone as well, maybe for the same reason you did. When the updates were sent, it was back to you, just you and your neighbor once more. He offered you a small smile.
I've missed you, you know. Even if you weren't ever really gone, it's been less time than I'm accustomed to.
Cove tapped his fist on the table defensively. He paired that action with a childish pout. If someone saw him like that, they might have assumed he was throwing a fit over not getting the toy that comes with a kid's meal.
feel the same way. I'm really glad we're doing this.
He made it you sincerely a ray of sunshine in the late night food trip. When the number was called, Cole topped off from his seat before he could react.
Don't worry about it.
I've got it. Favorite spot.
Alright, see you.
You stayed in the booth and got situated for the arrival of all the stuff. You checked over the table and moved your phone to the side to make sure that there was clear space. Cole returned two trays in hand, a great bounty of food. He placed them down carefully, being extra cautious with the tray that held his milkshake.
I'm back. Hi, back. Where's Cove? And that's gonna be the last time I'm serving food to anyone today.
He smirked and he snickered. It made a lot of sense. He was the one to get it. He was a professional.
Thank you for carrying all that, Cove.
It's no problem. Now I'm gonna go beat up the person who made that joke.
Cove didn't hesitate before digging in. He took a large bite of his cookie and immediately sipped his milkshake. Then he took a spoon and sampled his sundae with an approving hum. He made an attempt to follow that up with a bite of his apple pie as well. But Bill, with a distressed look on his face, he tilted your head in a silent question.
Hot.
He switched back to the milkshake, taking a dedicated slurp. Cove sighed at the cool relief it brought. He also started to taste yours. It really wasn't bad. In only a minute, Cove's cookie was gone. You wouldn't be surprised if the milkshake wasn't far behind. I want to tease him.
God.
Pick up pie, Hellick. He bit down on his straw and his eyes went wide. He slowly took his mouth off his milkshake.
Okay.
You were pleased and wiggled the pie towards him. It was still warm, but it didn't feel burning hot anymore to your fingers. Cole leaned closer, eager to take a bite. He mumbled happily as he bit into the pie. He chuckled at his delight, and he giggled nervously while trying to swallow. He felt so glad Cole agreed to come along with you on the initial grocery trip, and equally happy you accepted his invitation here. A little time off your feet, a little something to eat, you felt more energized than before. Your long shift at work that couldn't have been more than an hour or two in the past seemed like it was a lifetime away now. You continued to chat, mess around, laugh, and enjoy yourselves. For the first time that night, you felt like you weren't totally grown up after all.
Whew, alright.
Didn't feel as long as I thought it would.
Yeah, especially in comparison to the last ones. What's up?
It's just... that definitely felt short. That only was like a half hour.
Only a half. Okay.
Think it would have been different if, like, it was a different, like, place, though? Like, if we worked at the same place that Cove worked? Would that have been different?
It might have been, yeah.
Let me check something
Sure.
here. Where's my thing at?
Yeah, sure thing.
My target still doesn't look like they're live yet.
I mean, you can always rate Sean.
I still want to rate my target, though, just because I haven't... Oh, hold on. I gotta read something quick.
Yep.
Aw, Billy sent out a cute little message. That's so sweet of him. Let's see. Oh, Flame too? What?
Looks like a few people are on.
I still want to raid my friend though, just because he hasn't been live in a while because he took a break for the holidays.
Oh, okay.
Do you feel like you have enough energy to continue on with another story?
I think so. Like, I'm not too concerned about my VA or like my throat. It's more so yours because you know you've been doing most of the voice work tonight.
I mean, I think
So it's all.
I think we can squeeze in one more. Then that way we should be ready to go.
Sounds good.
Let me just down another drink.
Okay.
Hopefully by then probably when we get to the next part, we'll just have those two stories to worry about and then the ending, and then you can then move on to step 4. But we're not going to worry about it. We'll just do serendipity, and then we'll go on from there.
Okay.
Alright, let's go. Light filtered down through the leaves of an oak tree overhead, casting speckled shadows on the sidewalk all around you. There was a drop of sweat slowly making its way down the side of your face. You flicked it away with your thumb, slowing to a stop at the cool shade. They had you out and about in town, in no hurry to go anywhere in particular. Your morning shift had just ended, and there was nothing else planned for the rest of the afternoon. Your moms were still at work themselves, and Liz had left early in the morning to do something. You had no idea what. You took out your phone idly knowing the time would start to jingle. The screen lit up in your hands. Speak of the devil, Liz messaged you. Come home ASAP. Worrying would question why your phone went off again. Nothing bad, but you have to see this, so come back already. And with that final message, you were left just slightly confused than you were before. You hadn't seen much of your sister lately. She had been acting strange for days, always shutting herself up in her room. Which wouldn't be so weird if at the dinner table she didn't suddenly start smirking to herself over nothing. The rare times you did see her, she would sneak you expectant looks like she was wanting to be asked what was up, but all your questions led nowhere. She answered you with a put upon sigh, proclaiming she was busy, and she'd tell you she would have to talk about later. No hints, no guessing. Whatever it was, she was determined to keep it a secret. Maybe now you'd finally figure out what it was. As she did an about face on the sidewalk and started heading home, you received more text. To your surprise, that name that popped up on the screen this time was Cove's. Did you hear from Liz about some urgent thing you have to see? She messaged Cove too. You weren't surprised. Liz teased him about it, but he was like family. However, you were struggling to understand how he fit into Liz's surprise. Yeah, Liz sent me the same thing. His reply only came seconds later as you waited across the street. I figured she would. Are you going to see what's up?
I'm walking there now.
Me too. Glancing up, you saw that the light hadn't changed. It had changed to a walk sign while you were busy texting. You hurriedly wrapped things up, texting Cope a quick goodbye before crossing the street. It was fine. You'd be seeing him later anyway. Not expecting any more messages, you put your phone away so you could walk without having to worry about tripping over the curb. Thankfully, it was a short trek home, and soon enough you were walking up your street, the familiar face of your house already in view, thinking of what might be waiting at home. It left me lost. And the more you learned, the more questions you had. They were all buzzing around in your head, too many to try to pick out and make sense of. Lost in you thought you almost didn't see who was walking further up the street. Cove. Even from the back, the bright sea green color of his hair was unmistakable. You quickened your pace to catch up to him. The scuff of your shoes loud against the pavement. He heard it instantly, not missing a beat as he turned towards you and slowed his steps in sync.
Hey.
Hey, Susan.
Hi. Here we are at my house.
At that, Cove gave you a wary smile.
Here we are.
It sounded almost like a question, wondering why the two of you had been summoned there.
Any ideas on what Liz wants us for?
You shook your head. The situation was out of character for your sister. Anything could happen.
Well, I guess we should go in and find out.
Taking his key, you grabbed your keys and opened the front door. Cove trailed behind you as you entered. You walked to open the door and peered about, not sure what you were looking for. From the entry, you could see Liz pacing across the living room. Her smile gazed intensely on her phone. You had caught her just as she completed a turn behind you. The door clicked shut. The second she heard her head dart up in your direction, her features lined up at the sight of you and Cove.
Ah, you arrived together too. That's just perfect. That's perfect. Just perfect.
She flashed you a radiant smile. You could almost see her limbs vibrating as if she was poised to pounce. Cove raised an eyebrow at your sister's bizarre behavior.
So, what is it? Where is it? Where is it? What are we going to show us?
Liz laughed at your rapid-fire questions.
Calm down. You will see.
Liz's eyes narrowed with a mischievous grin. She let out a little cackle.
So, lately, I've been getting hard at work on a little plan of mine, and you two get the honor of seeing it all come together. Here it is! Surprise!
She lifted her hand in the air to present the very comfortable but completely mundane living room. In the resulting silence, you and Cove glanced around again and then made eye contact with each other. His face mirrored your bafflement. And suddenly another voice rang out in the room.
Surprise!
Ah,
Cole flinched at the shout. His shoulder shot up to his ears. Laughter came from your sister as well as from the other side of the room. Oh. Your head whipped around just in time to see a familiar figure with a freckled face and a purple cap springing up from behind the back of the couch. Cole's mouth fell open, recognition immediately coming to him.
Shiloh.
I. Wait, no. Hi, Gove. Hi, Susan.
Come on. Now goofy voice, come on.
Problem is, I've already trying to think of a voice for this. Okay. Hi, Gove. Hey, Susan.
Close enough. Shiloh greeted the two of you so casually, like he'd been gone for 10 days rather than 10 years.
You're actually here?
Your laugh breathed as you spoke. The sheer disbelief had you wanting to reach out and squish your hands through Shiloh to see if this image would disperse like a smoke in a dream. With a wide grin on his face, Liz snickered and clasped her hands together as pleased as a child after a fruitful night of trick-or-treating. Your and Cole's reactions were adequate offerings in her bucket full of treats. As amazed as you were still wondering one thing.
What happened? You had no idea who we were when we ran into each other.
Shiloh's gaze self-consciously dropped to the side. He tucked the brim of his hat down, bracing himself to answer, but Liz waved a hand at him as if to say don't worry about it.
I'll explain. When we got home that day, I changed my mind about letting it go. Why did I have what did I have to?
Social media exists. Why did I have to? Social media exists, right?
So I thought, why not try finding him and sending him a little reminder message?
Luckily, there were only so many 17-year-old Shiloh fields in the world. It wasn't that hard to do. Hearing Liz speak seemed to encourage Shiloh, who pulled himself together to face both you and your sister with a careful smile.
Sorry.
I'm really sorry about what happened. When you talked to me that first time, I was in the middle of a tour for a school field trip. I couldn't get separated from the group and didn't expect anyone to want to be talking to me. I was so worried about getting back to everyone else, I didn't think too hard on what you were saying. But when Lizzie's message showed up, everything suddenly hit me. Lizzie, Susan, Cove, you were the kids of Sunset Bird, back when I was a little kid. There's no way I could forget that. Not for real. I do know all of you, and I'm so happy I got to see you again. I have Lizzie to thank for that. My mom was already planning to take a short trip near here this summer.
Well,
If my mom could bring me along, Lizzie offered to pick me up and bring me the rest of the way here just so I could visit the neighborhood again.
And that's why I decided to make it a big reveal instead of outright telling you to. I got back in contact with Shiloh.
Once again, she lifted a hand in the air, properly presenting that long-lost childhood friend you all shared.
So, ta-da!
I was glad.
You smiled softly at Liz, remembering how Shiloh used to follow your sister around like a baby chick after his mom when they were kids. It's nice seeing the two of you together just like this, just like old times.
Cole blinked slowly, still a little dazed by everything that was going on.
uh-huh.
Okay, I'm gonna get some water. Don't disappear or anything. Don't worry, I'll only disappear for 10 days this time.
Maybe change that accent a bit. Anyway, it just
Ugh.
sounds weird to me. He padded off to the kitchen, no need for a chaperone. He knew where the cups were.
Wow, you really surprised him, Lizzie. And Susan, too? Did you see her face when I appeared?
Yes, I did.
Liz patted the cushion in front of the couch.
Make yourselves comfortable, you don't have to keep hunkering down behind there anymore.
With a laugh, Shiloh crossed around the backside and took the seat, but maybe it was awkward being the only one sitting because he kept idly twiddling his fingers. I can kind of hear you in my end, by the way. We're kind of,
What the
I
Okay,
hear
that's
you in
weird.
my end, so. You could hear him humming to himself a nonsense tune with no real melody, something to keep his voice busy. Being here again could be more nerve-wracking for him than he let on. Cole's soft voice announced his return. He paused to drag the back of his hand across his mouth, wiping away what droplets of water lingered there.
Hi, Shiloh. Welcome back?
At Cole's confused greeting, Shiloh laughed cheerily.
Thanks.
Thanks. I think it's amazing you're all still here in the same neighborhood. It's just like how it was back then.
With a giggle that implied differently, Liz nodded in your general direction.
Well, there have been some changes since then.
You narrowed your eyes at Liz. There was no way you could miss the teasing look she was fixing with you and Cole with. Shadow's eyes shifted across the group, still smiling politely, but there was a slight tilt to his eyebrows.
He didn't know what to make of what he was saying.
That is until Cole cleared his throat and spoke.
Yeah, Susan and I are dating.
It was fascinating how red he got as he said, his voice barely above a whisper, like he couldn't believe it was okay to say. Shadow's eyes went as wide as Saucer's mouth, opening into a tiny O shape.
Congratulations! That's amazing!
Really? Congratulations! Oh my god, he already said the line. Okay. The two of you seem to like each other even when we were kids. It's really sweet that you're together.
Yeah, it was pretty inevitable we'd end up together.
I can still hear you in my end, by the way.
What
Like,
the hell?
I hear you. I hear myself on your end, which is weird.
Yeah, let me just raise my, or let me lower my sensitivity then. Okay.
He said so, playing up a lackluster tone of voice.
What the sh...
After that, Cole openly laughed. His face got even redder. You liked the sound of his laughter, warm and delighted, like he wouldn't have it any other way. Shiloh sighed happily at the moment, and Cole raised an eyebrow and gave the room a considering glance.
Hey, this is where we met the first time, remember? Right after I moved in, me and Susan were brought down here to have a playdate with you.
Yeah.
Shiloh laughed, his eyes downcast as he fiddled with the corners of his collared shirt.
We almost didn't meet in the living room because you wanted to jump out the window to get away from me.
Cole cringed at the memory of his younger self pushed back to the forefront of his mind. His mouth going tight, awkwardly looked away from Shiloh.
You have a good memory.
Oh?
Oh, I don't think so. Seeing this place again just brings a lot of things back.
He clapped his hands together, an idea suddenly coming to him.
Hey, now our old group's together. Would you want to go out and visit some of the old places? I've been hiding in the living room since I got here.
Liz wasn't afraid to laugh at herself, bringing a hand to her chest to silently take the blame for that.
Oh, I'd love to.
Yeah,
Without missing a beat, the others turned to you for your answer.
Where to first?
That's fine.
Oh, I'm sure we'll figure it out along the way.
And with that, the four of you headed out into the neighborhood at once. Even with how short time you spent indoors was, the sun was momentarily blinding once you left the house. Squinting, you brought your hands up to shield your eyes. While the summer day had yet to go away, only a few wispy clouds drifted along the sky. As you strolled down the way, Liz took the lead, followed by you and Cove walking side by side. Shadow freely took to walking in the middle of the road, his arms idly swinging back and forth at his sides as he turned his head every which way to take in as much as he could. It was very much a trip down memory lane for him. You wondered how much the neighborhood had changed in his eyes. Not a word passed by between the group about where you were heading first, but soon enough you found yourself walking the usual path to the shopping street. Before you reached the sounds of it did, a collection of sandals tracking stand, the shrill calls of seagulls, the overlapping conversations of beachgoers, and random strains of music from various stalls.
Wow.
The odd gasp that came from Shiloh, his eyes were all lit up.
Were there always so many different stars in one place?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Wow, I can see why so many people come here. Hey, do they still have those nice little ice cream stands?
Yeah, that hasn't changed.
Yay, we should get some. It'll be my treat.
Thanks, Shiloh. Ice cream sounds perfect on such a hot day.
How about you, Cove?
You could see that unlike Liz, Cole was struggling with the decision, brow wrinkled in thought. Finally, a hesitant smile appeared on his face as he settled on keeping the spirit of this special occasion.
yeah, sounds good to me.
I'd hope so, considering he had no issue in the last thing, eating all that ice cream. Awesome. And Susan?
I like that, thanks.
Shiloh gave you a wide grin as if you were the one buying him ice cream. The four of you continued to walk as ice cream plans were further discussed.
Are you getting a popsicle, Lizzie?
Yes.
Hearing that, Shiloh smiled shyly.
I thought you might still like that. I'm gonna get an ice cream cone.
Charlotte began to turn to his coat before forking as Cole offered up his choice.
I'll get an ice cream.
I'm gonna get... I want an ice cream cone.
Charlotte had the right idea for this one. It was the best choice. There was an ice cream stall further up the street, across from a souvenir shop displaying postcards from the seaside and the saltwater taffy in the windows. Sandtown was already hard to miss with its pastel pinks and blues and its eye-catching poster boards listing every individual flavor. It was impossible to ignore nor once the catchy little jingle played from its speakers was added. Charlotte greeted the owner and began picking out the treats that everyone had chosen. He paid for them before handing them out to their respective owners. Sinking your teeth into your ice cream cone, you relished the sweet chill it left in your mouth. Liz was right. This was a perfect treat for a summer day. Around you, everyone else was eating at their own pace. Liz held her popsicle away from herself, careful not to let it drip onto her dress. She was trying to go about eating it as delicately as she could while Shiloh dug into his. You counted only 2 or 3 bites before Cove had devoured his sandwich. Shiloh laughed, also noticing the way Cove inhaled his food.
Called it.
It's already finished.
Cove shrugged a little in reply, his attention more focused on crumbling up the sandwich wrapper in his hands.
So, what have you been doing around here since I've been gone?
Well, I already told you about me attending college away from here, so I don't really live here anymore. But to be more specific on my life, I'm pursuing a degree in architecture.
Shiloh perked up at that, his mouth falling open in awe.
Amazing!
Thanks.
Actually, I was thinking about it, and the first time I really decided I liked buildings and building them was when you and I would make sandcastles out on the beach.
Aw.
Aw, Lizzie.
At such sincere admission from your sister, all Shiloh could do was blush and lower his head, too flattered to know what else to say. Liz laughed, just as flustered as though she had been the one to say it. The atmosphere was awkward, but not unpleasant. Shiloh shyly glanced over to you and Cove.
Then, what about you two? What have you been up to?
Oh.
Me and Susan just graduated high school, and I've got a part-time job. I volunteer at this organization to clean up things like that.
Yeah, I'd explain how you're doing normal things. You felt there wasn't anything super interesting to share about your life. What you cared about was important to you, but you knew it wasn't always the same for other people. Shiloh just seemed happy to hear it.
Great.
Being around him again was a little like picking up an old forgotten habit. Clunky at first, but as the four of you talked, it started to come more naturally. And when you ran out of things to say, suddenly someone else remembered something new.
Oh, right. Do you remember those mean old, not actually grandparents that used to live in our neighborhood?
Yeah, they were so mean.
Well, they're not here anymore.
Oh no, they're dead!
They're not spending summers here anymore. They're still alive.
Darn it! I mean, thank goodness!
It helped that Shiloh was just as eager as to hear what had gone on in his absence as people were to tell him. Soon everyone threw out what trash they had in a nearby garbage can, and as your group made their way down the beach, going down the shore would inevitably led to a certain spot. It didn't take very long for Shiloh to recognize what was in the distance. His words showed up in the middle of a sentence, his footsteps faltering at first. Then, all at once, he broke away from the group and dashed right into the old park, giggling as he ran.
Oh, everything is so small.
His laughter appeared up as he came by to stop by the swings and grabbed a hold of one of the support poles. He walked a little in a circle around, marveling how easily his hand wrapped around it entirely. Emboldened by Shiloh's enthusiasm, Liz popped herself down on one of the swing sets, only to instantly show an expression of regret. There was no way she was comfortable in that tiny seat so low to the ground, not with how she had to scrunch up her legs to fit there. Shiloh crept up behind her. He took hold of the chains onto her swing, one in each hand.
Seriously?
What are you doing?
And with a grin, Shiloh started walking back, Liv shifted in her seat to look at him.
You cannot be trying to push me. These are made for kids. Never gonna work.
Not with that attitude.
But Shiloh just hummed and kept pulling her back. Resigning herself to her fate, Liz tucked her legs up as much as possible as Shiloh moved his hands to her back. With a running start, he got her going forward and up as far as he could go before jumping out of the way. Liz had her eyes squeezed shut, a screech escaping her as the swing started falling backwards, and when it swung back around, there was Shiloh again to push her. She couldn't kick the ground like when you were kids. Her legs were too long for that now, but Charlotte was pushing her enough to keep the momentum going. The air was filled with the wild laughter and the almost rhythmic jangle of the swing chains. Cove sat against the bars of the jungle gym wearing a bent smile as he watched them. He was fiddling with something, turning it over and over and again in his hands. When he craned her neck to get a better view, he obligedly lifted for you to see. It was a piece of shell, one side rubbed in molten gray. The other side was completely smooth, revealing a faint blue sheen when it caught the light.
I saw it on the beach. It's nice, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a good one.
No, I meant Shiloh. He seems more confident than I remember.
That was crazy.
Shiloh's right. Everything's so much smaller than it used to be.
Cove nodded, leaning back to enjoy the breeze blowing from the sea. Soon your sister began to speak out.
Alright, I'm ready to get off. Now, how do you stop this?
Don't worry.
Shiloh braced
Oh, geez.
himself, 1 foot planted forward as the swing started coming back down. Then in one quick motion, he reached up and caught the chains again. The impact had speed skidding back in the sand, but he kept his stance steady. If Liz was surprised at suddenly being brought to a halt, she saw it, only tilting her head up to smile at him. Shiloh had yet to catch his breath, though he returned the smile just as brightly. He let go of the chains, walking around the swing set and briefly rubbing his hands together before offering one to Liz, which he graciously accepted, leaning to help to get out of the tiny seat. The two of them made their way back over to Hugh and Cove. Liz was looking more ruffled than usual, and her sun hat was off-kilter. Having held on for dear life the entire ride, she took a moment to straighten her outfit back into place.
That looked like fun.
It was.
Even though you were just pushing me on the swings.
Yep, that was the fun part.
Huh. Hey, Shiloh, you've got an idea of what our lives have been like since you've been gone. But I've been wondering, what happened to you after you moved away?
Shiloh's eyes went wide as if he was surprised to hear. You couldn't recall him talking about himself when you were all together and telling stories, but maybe he hadn't been able to find the right timing. He brought his hand to his chin, tapping it thoughtfully as he looked up and to the side.
Well, what happened was my mom decided to move back to the south, closer to where I was born. We stayed there for a few years until she got another job offer in California again, thanks to a connection she had there. It was a really good job at a private boarding school, so she decided to take it.
That's actually a reference. You remember
Oh?
remember the game I linked you before?
Oh, yeah.
He's in it too. They're connected. With a wide grin, he said the next part.
And as a bonus, her kid, me, gets to attend the school and live in the dorms for free. Whatever. I've been there since my second year of middle school. Pretty soon I'm going to be starting my last year of high school.
Liz leaned towards him with an attentive smile on her face.
Have you been doing well there?
Getting good grades? Got any friends? At the list of questions, Silo held his hands off in front of himself as they were physical things he could stop off.
Yeah.
Stay above. Yeah, to everything. It can be a little hard sometimes because of how people are in that school, but I'm happy.
How people are?
Cove couldn't guess what that meant, but Liz folded her arms, scowling.
Don't tell me there's more people like that Nate guy hanging around.
Hey!
Shiloh rubbed at his cheek, laughing nervously. He glanced from the bars of the jungle gym to the laces of his shoes to the tree swing in the distance, unsure where to rest his gaze.
Not exactly. Nate doesn't mean to be mean, he just kinda is. Hey, why are you just my boy Nate? The fuck?
Wait, have you played the game?
Yes?
Oh, well then.
that was my pick.
Well then.
Oops.
I didn't know you were actually playing it.
Yes.
You didn't
I
tell
thought, like,
I just showed you
I
the game.
thought-
I didn't think you were actually gonna play it.
I thought you would have noticed because of like the Steam display and stuff.
I
And also
haven't-
the achievement activity.
I haven't been on my. I don't go to my. I don't always open my Steam. I don't always have my
Oh.
Steam out, but I keep it closed only when I need to use it.
Oops. Okay.
Awkward. Awkward.
Anyways.
Go ahead.
He's the school's #1 performer for athletics and academics. He always takes on so much responsibility that the only possible way he can finish it all is if absolutely nothing goes wrong. Well, that's impossible.
so he's always stressed and ready to snap. You can't handle it when someone seems to be causing a problem. That's why during the field trip he was upset when I went off on my own like. Still, he's really smart and reliable, and he cares a lot. Most of the time, he doesn't even realize his way of dealing with stuff upsets other people.
Cove had a patient smile on his face, listening earnestly as Shiloh rattled off his list of Nate's good traits.
You know him pretty well.
Are you actually friends?
Well, not exactly. Me and Nate are in the same after-school group. About once a month, me, 6 other students, and a supervisor got together to talk. We did it all of last year, and I think next year we're going to be in the same group again. I hope so.
Nice. Shiloh liked this after-school group of his, and you were glad to hear he had a space for himself in his school. Personally, I still appreciate having a word with Nate about his communication skills. Her tone of voice was low and pointed. You'd be worried for Nate, if not for the playful smile that accompanied her words. Shiloh let out a little laugh at that.
I do have Nate's number, but he wouldn't pick up. People in my group only answer when they feel like hearing from me, so you usually have to wait for them to call. Either that, or they've never even considered even answering my calls, or calling me, or talking to me at all, unless the supervisor forces them to.
It was such a bleak description of his dynamic with his group, but he didn't seem to realize until he glanced up and saw the concerned look on everyone's faces. His smile fell. He hastened to add one more thing.
Well, except for one who will always answer for sure.
Oh? She immediately perked up.
Really?
So that's a friend of yours? He hesitated to answer, something Cove picked up on.
Not exactly. Yeah, I'd like to be friends, though.
Alright. Liz crossed her arms together once more, grim-faced like she was the commander of a ship about to lead her little crew into battle. You should call them, right now.
Wait, what?
If you want to be friends with them, I can help. If you're going to be in the same group again, then you should at least try to get along.
No, I couldn't.
He quickly grew flustered, his tongue stumbling over his sentences.
I don't want to be a bother.
I mean,
Liz, what are we gonna do? Watch him while he talks to someone on the phone?
No, Cove. Shiloh. The last syllable of Shiloh's name trailed off to nothing. It soon became clear Liz hadn't fully thought on the plan yet, but she wouldn't be Liz if she just stopped there. Shiloh could put them on a video call. We could all talk together, of course. She clapped her hands together, a wide smile on her face that didn't leave room for discerning options.
Alright.
It's a good idea. It'll work. Cole's right. It doesn't make sense for us to crowd around Shiloh when he's on the phone. That's not how you make friends. Cole smiled at you. You relieved to see that someone else had the same reasoning too. Aw, come on, Shiloh. We'll just talk to them saying that we're your friends from out of town. The worst that can happen is that nothing changes. But once they have more chances to talk to you, I know they'll be convinced to be better friends. It's going to turn out okay. Shiloh stalled to answer, but his hand was already hovering over one of the pockets of his pants.
Alright, we can talk.
Yes! Liz clenched her hand into a fist, cheering on Shiloh as Shiloh officially reached into the pocket and pulled out his phone. You noticed it was the same type of model as your own, but his had a red case around it. The screen lit up, and Shiloh requested a video call with some number in his contacts. None of them on the list had names. He must remember what number belongs to what person. He inched closer
It's
to
almost
the
as
three.
if they didn't want to use the official player character's name.
He inched closer
Sorry.
to the three of you so everyone could hear better. Vaguely wondered how this looked from the outside. 4 teenagers on the verge of adulthood hanging out around an old playground, all huddled up around a single phone. Strange? Suspicious? The ring of your phone broke out of your musings. You kept your eyes on it, your heart's beating at the end of each dial tone. Could this be only to have another start up? It had been ringing for a while when you started to think of what Cove said about all you watching as Shiloh talked on the phone. Maybe even that wouldn't happen. Shiloh could sense the awkwardness in the air, smiling to try to dispel it.
This is normal, don't worry.
Just as he said, the call ended, not even going to voicemail. Shiloh clicked to redial.
Never answers on the first call. He always does on the second. That's how he is, at least with most people. There are exceptions.
You, Liz, and Cove furtively shared ambiguous looks, none of you wanting to accidentally discourage Silo. Then you focused on the phone again as it started to ring once more. The jingling suddenly cut off in the middle, followed by the faint sound of a white noise. With a big smile and flushed cheeks, Shiloh brought the phone up to his face. A voice, low and grunky, came rasping out of the speakers.
Hello.
Shiloh, on the other hand, was much more chipper.
Hi.
Hi. I'm visiting a town I used to live in when I was little, and I wanted to introduce my group mates to the people I knew back then. Some of them have already met Nate. Can you say any of them too?
And with that rushed introduction, Shiloh stuck the phone out towards Cove, gesturing for him to greet the person on the other end. Although Cove hadn't been on board in the beginning, the only indication of that now was the lopsided tilt of his smile. He turned his gaze down at the screen, opening his mouth to speak, only to stutter to a complete stop.
Huh?
All Cove did was sputter and gasp at the screen. His reaction had Shiloh's brows crinkling in worry.
What?
Shiloh's groupmate didn't sound very particularly impressed with how this conversation was going so far. Shiloh frowned, retracting his arm away from Cove. As he did so, the screen tilted towards you and caught a glimpse of what was on the screen. Light green hair, sharp orange eyes, shadowed with bags, and icy pale skin all tied together to make up the scowling face of a person who clearly had no desire to be here. You knew him. A flood of memories arose. Flashes of the one summers years ago at the very same park, you holding on the arrogance of fruit, arrangement of fruit, Derek and Cove at your side. And that kid, mean as a tiny chihuahua, snapping at everyone who dared to come close.
Oh, it's this guy.
Are you Jeremy?
Yeah.
His reply was palpably disinterested.
How'd you know his name was Jeremy? You didn't. Them.
Meh, why do you make his voice so craggly? Jeez.
Well, to match the description.
Maybe don't make it as craggly. Come on.
Fair enough. No, I only called you somebody from my group at school.
Jeremy regarded you cautiously, for the first time giving the situation a little of his focus. Cove bristled, sucking a long, deep, dramatic breath.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
And all at once he started shouting, and not just with his voice. He waved his arms around, gesturing wildly with his hands as he repeatedly yelled, "Oh my god," with all sorts of inflections.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
At these antics, Jeremy gave a short huff and upside through his teeth. It sounds tingy over the phone speakers.
What is this, Shiloh? Are you trying to make me suffer? Are you still mad about what happened at the amusement park? I was on your side, you know.
Liz, who had been entirely lost this whole time, finally spoke up.
Huh?
What happened at the amusement park?
But no one paid that question any mind.
I don't know what's going on. Have you met each other before?
Nope.
It was an intimate reply from Jeremy, but those stinging eyes squinted.
Wait.
There was a flash of recognition as he leaned his head towards and scrutinized the both of you. His already wide frown somehow found a way to grow deeper at this realization.
Oh, it's
Oh.
you people.
Oh,
Again.
It's you. Oh, it's you.
He looked from Shiloh to Cove and then to you. You could tell he was carefully putting his thoughts together.
Sorry.
I have no idea how you got in contact with me or what Shiloh has to do with this, but, sorry.
What?
Jeremy sighed again, his gaze rolled over to Cove.
I don't remember exactly what I did. I said, but I do know what I... And really, that's all I...
Well, okay, but who's that apology for? It better be for me and Susan.
He spoke sternly through it that there was no hiding the shakiness present, that didn't matter. Cove coming to your defense by confronting Jeremy brought a warm smile to your face. Jeremy, on the other hand, continued to be unimpressed. The corner of his lips twitched.
I didn't need to know what the teenage guy equivalent of smooshy squeak is, but now I do. Thanks.
A small offended noise escaped Cove. Unfortunately, it was also squeaky sounding. His face immediately burned red with embarrassment. That's my squeak toy you're talking about. His thumb pointed at Cove for added emphasis. Cove huffed in disbelief, but he couldn't fight the smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. Jeremy didn't react at all. He continued watching the four people on the other end of this unwanted call, like audaciously.
Whatever.
The apology is for whoever. Anyone who had to deal with it back, they weren't having.
Kind of cutting out a little bit.
Anyone who had to deal with me back then, they weren't having. They
Yeesh.
weren't having it.
Okay, let me just raise it again.
He shrugged. Jeremy focus cycled on from you to Cove and back again.
I kind of remember what happened, I think. You were sensitive and you tried to be nice. What a tragedy that was.
Jeremy tilted his head Cove's way and then yours respectfully. Amazed, Cove took a few processing moments before he could respond. He blinked and rubbed the back of his neck.
Oh, thanks. I mean, it's no problem.
I accept your apology. This moment was the absolute last thing you had expected today, but you couldn't help but be pleased that it happened.
Whatever.
Following Cove's eye, you watched it dart from Shiloh to Jeremy, openly wondering what had happened to Jeremy over these past few years.
So, you're nice now?
Nope.
Nope. I don't throw tantrums or pick fights anymore, but I'm not nice. Instead, I just bitch on the internet about other things.
Jeremy shook his head in disbelief.
That squeak toy comment wasn't a compliment, you know. I don't have the energy to get angrily worked up like I used to as a kid. It's all pointless anyways. Now I'm just miserable.
His tone was even grumblier than usual and dragged the syllables out of the last word for extra emphasis.
Oh,
An awkward laugh escaped Shiloh, then his mouth pulled into a demure smile.
Don't let what Jeremy says about himself get you down. He's got people who care about him and make sure he's okay. Like me.
Don't listen to Shiloh.
I'm still not over the fact that the two of you actually know each other. I got a snort out of Jeremy.
Me neither.
Okay, seriously, how long am I meant to be out of the loop here? Her expression twisted in frustration as lips rubbed her right temple. Why am I the only one who doesn't know this kid? Shiloh goes to school with him, that's fine, but how the two of you meet him and I didn't? He tried to explain.
You were there, I think. He was around town one summer, maybe 5 years ago.
Is that all? While this seemed a bit underwhelmed, Shiloh appeared to be utterly amazed. You had to hold back a small laugh.
Really?
You knew Jeremy as a little kid? What was he like? I've only known him for around a year and a half.
well,
His voice immediately hushed into nothing. You could see Cove wince just thinking on those past encounters. You reflected on that as well. You can already picture past Jeremy in your mind.
All I did was yell and say people were dumb.
You weren't sure what else to say about him. He was an insufferable kid. Cove nodded firmly in agreement.
didn't matter what happened. He was mad about everything.
Jeremy's expression didn't give away a single sign of what he might have been thinking. He continued to blandly stare at you both up until he finally spoke.
Yep.
Yep, that sounds like.
At that confirmation, Shiloh burst into uncontrolled laughter. Even when he calmed moments later, gasping for breath, there was still a wide grin plastered on his face.
I can't even imagine Jeremy being like that.
I can't imagine him not being like that.
They both chuckled again. Cole's mouth pulled into an immense smile.
I
mean, Jeremy hasn't made fun of my eyebrows once this whole conversation. Unbelievable.
Huh.
Jeremy blinked and focused all his attention onto Cove. His eyes unmistakably narrowed in on the eyebrows. He didn't say anything at first, and then his words came out in a minute.
That makes sense. I guess insulting eyebrows was just what I did as a kid.
What does that mean?
What do you think it means? You weren't the only kid in the world with bad eyebrows, and you're not the only one I've done it.
Seriously?
I wasn't? You couldn't help yourself, could you?
Nope.
Wow,
So, what made their eyebrows bad? Are you curious if yours are better, by terrible eyebrow standards at least?
Kind of, yeah.
Sigh.
Incredulously, Cove looked from Jeremy to you and then back to him again. You had to question if you heard that right. He spoke the word sigh instead of actually sighing. Noticing the reaction, Jeremy sighed for real, but continued on to answer Cove's questions.
The guy has particularly odd hair coloring, white hair, but only on the top of his head. Every other strand on his body is dark brown, including his immensely bushy eyebrows. He was born that way. It's not dyed.
Do you know what character that is, sweetie? Does that sound familiar?
Okay, every other strand is dark. Okay, so it's not Nate.
He had like white on the top of his head or something.
Yeah, so I don't think it was Bay.
Hopefully you'll figure it out.
Maybe it was the counselor?
So, you were the scar boy with dumb wavy eyebrows, and he was the white-haired boy with stupid caterpillar eyebrows.
Ow.
Unexpectedly, a loud gasp came from Shiloh at that description.
No, you picked on Pran for his eyebrows?
I guess there's a name
Oh.
for you.
Oh, it was Pran, okay.
I did. I'm sure you find that hilarious.
No, that's not very funny.
So he said, but Shiloh was smoldering laughter. The unconvinced note in Jeremy's voice didn't surprise you.
Okay. Wait. Give me a second. Let me just...
Jeremy rolled his eyes in the slowest, most exaggerated way possible. When he made a complete circle, he spoke flatly while Shiloh broke into a fit of giggles.
There.
Who's Pran? Shiloh knows him too?
Well,
Jeremy and Pran have known each other for a long time. They managed to go to the same boarding school later on. I met them both there in the spring of last year. We're all group mates.
Jeremy's gaze slid away from Shiloh. He looked somewhere between you and Cove.
Pran and I met about 4.5 years ago, back when I was still an intolerable brat, and Pran was meek. You can only imagine how amazing that combination was.
Yeah, it must make those group meetings awkward.
Nope. Somehow, some way, some reason, Pran chose to stubbornly stick with me for as long as we've known each other. He's my best friend.
Wait, what?
Surprising, I know. I have a best friend, and it's the Caterpillar Bravo guy of all people. But I guess things balanced out in the end. Brad's stupid nature is good and dead. He grew up to be colder than even me. I'm mopey, and he's broody. Perfect match.
No reason of ruining everyone's life pod.
Gross.
Don't quote. Right.
Cove whined after Jeremy snapped at his last remark.
Now, who's Everett?
You don't want to know.
Do you know?
Vaguely.
Yeah, you don't want to know.
Shiloh hummed as he watched his three old friends with an amused smile. He was having fun. Before he could say anything, Jeremy continued.
Everett is also a part of the group. Unfortunate.
But he chose not to elaborate further than that. Liz sighed this time. You could feel her frustration. You couldn't blame her for that. She hadn't been able to participate much at all. She didn't know Jeremy then, so there was no basis for reminiscing now. And there was a 10-year gap in her history with Shiloh. The whole situation struck an odd chord with you. Two boys that you knew separately came to know each other, and now they know each other much better than they know any of you. Shiloh was almost a stranger. You know how to feel. You were happy to know that Shiloh was busy living his life and filling it with new friends, but it was hard not to feel sort of left behind. And then it was utterly bizarre that he had apparently been bonding with Jeremy. Turning to the three of you, Shiloh smiled apologetically. You wondered if he was picking up on how in the dark you, Liz, and Cole were feeling. He was perceptive when he wanted to be. At least that's what you remembered of Shiloh. Who knew what he was like? Who knew what he was like now?
Hey, is there anything you want to hear about Jeremy? I can tell you all about him. We should get to know each other better.
Don't do that.
It'll be okay.
Jeremy whined, but Shiloh brushed his complaints off. He remained happily focused on the rest of you, and Liz seemed to perk up at the conversation shift. That sounds great! We should get to know Jeremy. So, who wants to go first? Despite being very eager, it was obvious that Liz didn't have any ideas herself. Jeremy let out a very long sigh.
When's his birthday?
May 4th. He's a Taurus.
Jeremy refused to comment on that. Instead, he rolled his eyes.
Does he have any siblings?
Nope.
Nope, Jeremy's an only child. He doesn't have pets either. Although, Fran spends almost no time with his own family, and along with Jeremy's. It's kind of like a sibling relationship, Don't bring Bran into this awful thing. Okay.
What are his parents like?
They're nice and optimistic. They work really hard, but they can be smothering, sort of, and usually embarrass Jeremy.
Jeremy seemed unenthused by Shiloh's answer.
Does he have any hobbies?
Reading and crafty handiwork type of stuff. Oh, and archery. Jeremy is really talented.
Seriously? That's really cool.
Jeremy scoffed at the compliments. He clearly wanted to move on from the conversation.
Is he doing well in school?
Yeah, Nate is still doing the best, but Jeremy gets respectable scores. Or, unless by doing well you mean to ask if he's having a good time or making friends, then in that case, no. He's not.
You weren't trying to respond to all that. Glancing back at Jeremy, he rolled his eyes.
What's his full name?
Jeremy Marion King. Isn't that neat?
Why do you even want to know that? Are you planning on stealing my identity?
That got a laugh out of you, Jeremy sighed.
You can have it.
Okay. How tall is he?
5'5". He's kind of short.
What did happen at the amusement park?
I don't actually know. I can only think of one time when we were both there. I'm not sure what part he's talking about. As far as I could tell, I didn't do anything to upset him, and I know he didn't do anything to me.
That's where you're going with That's what you're going with, Shiloh.
Jeremy, what happened?
I'm not gonna tell you. It's humiliating, and Shiloh knows I'm not gonna say anything. That's why you won't explain it either.
For several quiet moments, everyone stared at Shiloh and Jeremy in confusion. Shiloh had a similar look on his face before averting his eyes.
Sorry, I can't help you with this one, Susan.
Can I get his number?
What? Why?
All right.
Sure.
Ignoring Jeremy again, Shiloh immediately started listing off the numbers for you. Jeremy grimaced while you contentedly saved it in your contact list. What happened to his bull-cutting glasses?
He had a bowl cut?
That sent Shiloh into a fit of laughter, while Jeremy shook his head disapprovingly. Through chuckle, Shiloh continued with his best guess.
Right.
His mom and dad probably decided about that back then, and now he picked, or they developed new tastes over the years. As for his glasses, Jeremy wears contacts at school when he's out and about. He still wears glasses when he's home and working part-time at his parents' hobby shop.
Is he... Yeah, I'm not gonna ask. That's everything I can think of.
Cool. Thanks for asking. Go. Do you have any questions for Jeremy?
Stunned, it took Cove a moment to recover from being put on the spot. But ultimately, his eyes shifted from Shiloh's and locked with Jeremy's. They remained like that long enough that it was as if they could speak telepathically.
Alright. Yeah, I have a question, but Shiloh can't answer.
Fine. Ask me. Let's get this over with.
What do you think of me? Even if you don't think I'm tough or something, do you still feel like I'm stupid and wrong about everything?
A crack formed in Jeremy's lackadaisical expression. His barely open eyes lifted a little more, but he still spoke flatly.
My opinion on stuff is basically the least important thing you could ever worry about. It's pointless. Well, I'm still asking, so...
Go, right. That's your name.
Cove nodded. There was a tinge of pink in his cheeks as he bashfully rubbed his arm.
Okay.
Okay, Cove. You seem like a guy who cares a lot about things that don't matter.
sounds pretty dumb to me. I outgrew that years ago. Being as soft as you act, it isn't something that I would ever do, basically. But, you know what the absolute dumbest thing really is?
Cove shook his head with creased brows. He then leaned forward just a bit, just like he couldn't risk not hearing what revelation Jeremy was going to bestow on him.
Making yourself miserable if you don't have to.
Oh,
If you and the rest of the people here have a way to enjoy existence, then you should go ahead and do that. Stay gentle and happy, dumb eyebrow guy.
You have my approval.
You have my
That's what you
approval if
wanted.
that's what you wanted. I hope you all live wonderful lives and suffer as little as possible.
wow.
The words tumbled out softly. Cove was earnestly amazed by Jeremy's words.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and you know what's not gonna make you stay happy?
What?
Talking to a downer like me. So really, you should end this conversation right now, and none of you should ever call me again for the rest of our lives. Sounds good. Can I hang up already? Oh, wait, Jeremy. I can't never call you again. Shut up, Shiloh.
Unfazed, Shiloh's laughed with a tilt of his head.
You're like something good, up only to try undercutting it. That's the Jeremy I know.
Sorry.
Sorry.
The words dripped with sarcasm and was accompanied by a smirk. It was the first time you saw him smile this entire time. Cove piped up meekly, an awkward smile on his own face.
Maybe my opinion is totally skewed because I'm comparing things now to how Jeremy used to be. But, I mean, you don't seem that bad.
What?
Cove needed to look away from Jeremy's painfully sharp eyes to finish his thought.
I mean,
I'd probably be okay with talking to you again.
Come on, you can have standards.
I want to keep talking. Jeremy groaned loudly your acceptance of him. You smiled only one in amusement, and Liz clapped her hands.
Wonderful.
Good.
Now that we're so much more closer to this Jeremy kid, I think we can all get along together and be friends.
Friends.
Jeremy repeated the word back like it was a foreign phrase he generally didn't seem to understand.
That's right. If we keep working on it, I don't see why the five of us can't be friends.
He stared at Liz incredulously for several moments. Her expression twisted into a fresh confusion of her own.
Okay. 3 things. First, I already have one whole friend, and that's more than enough. Second, I still don't know who you are. Do you even say your name at any point? And most importantly, third, one of the people in this friendship is Shiloh Fields. He and I aren't going to be friends.
Why not? And I'm Liz, by the way.
Because he's Shiloh. Our relationship is already as good as it ever is gonna be. He mercifully leaves me be most of the time, and on the weird occasion where he needs something, I just get it over with. Then he goes away again, and I have a modicum of peace. You know how it works, right? You're in it with me. We have the best arrangement possible with the way it is.
Jeremy looked up to Shiloh seriously to back up the fidelity of their relationship, but Shiloh shook his head with a laugh.
I don't try to hang around too much, but that's because you're shy. You're the only one who thinks that setup is actually a good idea. Sorry.
Jeremy turned his face to the side and let out another exaggerated sigh. Cove and Liz both joined on Shiloh's mirth. Jeremy got no support.
Sigh.
Of course you'd say that. Why did I even bother? That's Shiloh's famous memory for you.
Liz's chuckling stopped.
Wait, what does that mean, Shiloh's famous memory?
What? Whatever. Basically, Shiloh annoyingly remembers everything that happens for all of eternity. At least until some piece of info he has isn't helpful anymore, or he's got explaining to do. Magically, all of a sudden, he doesn't know anything about it. His boldly inconsistent recollection of situations is pretty much a running joke. It's Shiloh's shtick, one of them.
A scowl dug into Liz's face as Jeremy spoke. Cove lost his smile, seeing her reaction. Shiloh remained silent with his big childlike eyes locked on your sister. Jeremy began to shrink away from the screen at the changing atmosphere. He broke eye contact with everyone.
I'm guessing he didn't mention that.
No.
No, he didn't.
And he said he forgot something to you?
I do recall him saying a little thing like that.
Sorry. But well, apparently you had the pleasure of meeting Nate. You know me, and I talked a bit about Brian and Everett too. We're all in that unbearable group, and we're all unbearable people. What an amazing coincidence, huh? What we're about is kind of hard to hide. I'm gonna go now. I don't want to be the fifth wheel to your own little group. You three have a good day, I guess. And Shiloh, I'll see you back at school.
Bye.
Bye.
Jeremy promptly ended the call just as people had begun to warm up to him. He actually accidentally found a new way to ice the mood again. Shiloh, now averting his own gaze, put his phone away and chuckled.
So,
I know that Jeremy didn't think highly of me, but it's even worse than I thought. That's really sad.
Shiloh.
Her firm tone immediately brought Shiloh's focus back to her. Once she got his attention, however, Liz's voice became small.
When we first met you in the city, did you know who we were? Did you pretend not to recognize us?
The two old friends watched each other for a beat, but ultimately Shiloh closed his eyes with a lopsided smile.
Oh, Lizzie, you gotta know I could never really forget you.
Liz was speechless, but it wasn't quiet. Cove couldn't stop himself from shouting out.
Oh my god! You were lying to them?
Lying is a strong word. I was improvising.
That was cruel, Shiloh.
Rounding across your arms and waited. He hurt your feelings, and he continued to hurt you by not even acknowledging that you spoke. That entire conversation where you found each other again was all a lie. The thought of it made your chest tighten and your heart feel heavy.
Go home, Shiloh, or go to my house and wait there until we can send you home.
Alright.
Okay.
With his shoulders dipped in head low, Shiloh obediently left the park alone. After he disappeared up the road, Liz sat her butt down right into the sand with no concern for how dirty her dress might get this time. Let's go, Joyce. You can go. We're done. Cove shared an unsure look with you. She wanted to be alone, but this wasn't the time for that.
We're not going anywhere.
Something that you were going to be here for this. She let out a groan at the same time Liz pulled the sides of her hat down, gripping it tightly in frustration.
I can't believe he pretended he didn't know us. Since when was Shiloh too good to catch up with his acquaintances? It's infuriating. Am I an idiot for thinking we could talk?
Give her a huggy. You go closer and put your big sister into a hug from the side. You continued to hold on to her even when she didn't let her go of her hat.
Shiloh lied to us. That's not your fault.
Seriously, he's a tool.
Fine.
I know. I shouldn't care. It doesn't matter if one person doesn't want to be my bestie. He's not the greatest man on earth. I'll be fine. But I brought him here all the way from the other side of the state, and I don't even know why he did any of this.
Liz finally removed her hands from the brim of her hat in order to rub at her temples instead.
It blows.
Cove snorted some sort of nervous laughter at her unexpected phrasing. She didn't mind it.
I'm here for you, Liz.
Thank you.
Thanks, baby sister.
She swished you tight and you rocked you back and forth like a dramatic hug. You let out a Cove-like squeak.
I love you. I love you too. And what is family for? Well, I thought it was for hogging the phone while growing up, but this works. She released you with a shaky, self-impressed laugh. Oh, and thank you, Tuco, for being around. We're gonna officially be family one day, right?
She shot a worried smile and tensed up, his face going red. He was willing to take her teasing if it made her feel better.
Don't mention it. Also, that only happens in Phase 4.
Good, good.
Liz her eyes after those last couple of words. It eased your heart to see her feel better. Cove let out a soft sigh of relief.
Hey,
Golden brought his face close to yours so he could speak in a whisper.
Are you okay?
are you okay? I know Lizzie Liz was his best friend, but you knew him too, and you were there when you did his whole pretend improvisation act.
I'm okay.
And I'm glad. He doesn't deserve to be gone for 10 years and suddenly mess with everybody's emotions.
Cole ended his checkup by reaching over to pat you on the shoulder reassuringly. Your longtime neighborhood group sat together quietly in the sand, just enjoying the feeling of familiarity and support. You weren't entirely sure how much time had passed, but you eventually caught off guard by a soft call in the distance. In unison, the three of you turned your heads to the sound, and there, standing at the edge of the playground, was Shiloh himself. He waved. He simply waited. You wanted to give him a chance.
Do you have something to say?
What's that? I couldn't hear you from over there. But don't get up on my account. I'll come to you.
Now!
You knew he heard what you said. Shiloh approached you with easy strides as if he had been welcomed. You were floored with how much confidence or shamelessness the boy was apparently capable of now. Lizzie turned her face and refused to acknowledge what was happening. She might have been trying to think happy thoughts and wish Shiloh's presence away. Unfortunately, it didn't work. When Shiloh arrived, he plopped down in the sand with the rest of you, his legs folded crisscross.
Hi.
Hi.
Leave.
Seriously, get lost.
I will. In just a moment.
What do you want now?
Well, I figured you want to talk to me after you had some space. I'll let you do that, even if you're gonna yell at me.
Liz finally faced him to be free to snap at Shiloh with full force.
And why in the world would you think that?
Unfazed, Shiloh looked back at her softly.
You haven't changed that much, Lizzie. You're the one who found me online when I rushed you off earlier this summer. When have you ever preferred leaving something unresolved in the end? You didn't even get the chance to make me explain why I did it. I bet you're dying to do that.
Lizzie
Hate this guy.
Lizzie ground her teeth, quietly fuming. Shiloh had called it right away, and that sucked for her.
Fine, I'll bite. Give me your excuses.
Well,
Well, mostly, it was really bad timing. I could have handled it a lot better if I had known I was going to see you that day, and if there wasn't a self-appointed hall monitor dutifully watching every move people made.
And a hi, good to see you, gotta go, was simply too much for your little heart to manage.
Of course, the goal was to keep as much distance as possible. Admitting I was the guy you knew wouldn't have been helpful.
So you can't stand us, and me trying to reconnect was just a huge pain for you after all. Amazing, wonderful, thank you so much for saying so.
No, that's not it. Don't feel bad, though. You're almost never wrong.
Okay, tier 3 sub.
Your older sister's brow twitched as she stared at Shiloh in tired disbelief. He smiled back at her brightly.
I did it so this wouldn't happen.
What?
I dealt with that situation the way I always do. By saying stuff I didn't exactly mean because it's just easier that way. You're a Jeremy. It's what I'm known for. Sure, right now you're mad that I pretend not to remember you, but if I hadn't done that, it would have been something else later on and we'd have ended up here still.
Liz's anger became more and more difficult for her to maintain. It was soon replaced with a sad confusion.
Then don't do that. Don't be like that. Why not be someone you're actually okay showing me?
Shiloh chuckled uncomfortably and searched for a way to explain himself to his former idol.
I wouldn't have made you sad if I could have avoided it. I mean that. I thought I could at least finish this visit without issues. Jeremy wasn't someone I expected to call me out. That's pointless to him usually. But I'm gonna be someone whose personality revolves around making. I'm not going to be someone whose personality revolves around making you happy. No matter how much I follow others, it wasn't for them. Every decision was mine. I couldn't be in charge, so being a sidekick to the best option was something I did for my sake. I chose to let people be the boss when it's what I need, and I chose when to stop it. And the best I could do for you now is spare you from dealing with it. I'm not as earnest as you are. I'm not as nice as you are. I was always like that, even as a kid.
I hate this guy.
Back then, I wanted to fit in, even if it meant excluding someone else. They were the odd one out, and me and I wasn't. Finding my place here got harder when Cove moved in. It was a good thing for everybody that I ended up moving myself soon after that.
You're speechless. It was so much to have to suddenly accept. I knew that's essentially how you were back then. You were a scaredy cat who wanted someone to defend you.
Jeez.
I simply imagined that in the past 10 years you grew out of that and learned how to speak to others like, I don't know, an actual grown-up human being.
Well, in my defense, I'm not an adult yet. I won't be 18 until later this year in October.
October 30th.
You remembered.
So you did. So did you, punk. Shiloh's chuckled self-consciously at Liz as Liz smirked at him. There was an affable moment before she became serious again. I liked you when we were kids. I wanted to know you now. That's what upset me the most. The idea that maybe you only wanted to be rid of your old friends.
Aw.
Oh, Lizzie, you're too good to need someone like me in your life. That's the truth. I'm not worth the effort.
Well, that's right.
Except for with unusual people who have odd taste.
Then she straightened up in the sand, brushing her dress back out. That's an incredibly annoying thing to say. It's insane. You've only changed in stupid ways and stayed the same for the rest.
That's fair.
It is? It means maybe I have unusual taste. He could have stuffed Shiloh's entire hat into his mouth how wide he opened it.
Tempting. Really?
Well, as much as mother hen being compelled to look out for their chick, no matter how useless they are, is unusual, I can't help it. You haven't changed that much at all either. You're still Shiloh. You're painfully still Shiloh.
You're welcome.
I brought you here, and I'm not gonna abandon you. It has to be someone's job to look out for and keep an eye on you. With her scrutiny returning, she pulled herself up the ground and glowered down at Shiloh with her arms folded. Now, I do want an apology for everything you've done behind our backs when you could have opened with all that you just said. You should have given us a real chance or stayed at home. This stuff was rude to me and Susan and Cove too. As if bringing the baby chick comparison to life, Shiloh dutifully did as he was told.
Sorry, Lizzie, Susan, Cove, everyone. I didn't want to cause problems or ruin the day. And you don't have to accept just because I'm saying it. Not everybody needs to like everyone.
You got that right.
Alright then. You were kind of mean sometimes when we were kids. But I wasn't very nice to you either. All this recent stuff isn't really something to make about me, so I'm not going to hold on to it. And as long as you're not going to keep upsetting people from now on.
Thanks, Cove. We'll avoid doing that in the future.
You then changed to focus on you. His expression was curious. He wanted to know where your feelings landed on this for him. On him. Faint smile. He preferred to get along rather than not, and it seemed like that was still going to be possible. Susan? Do you want to stay for what's left of the evening? As you got to your feet, you thought about it. Okay, another chance. Liz is looking out for Shiloh. Someone has to look out for her. A slight grin went across your face. Shiloh jumped to his feet, straightening his cap on the landing.
Lynn would be so proud. You didn't all leave.
Cope rose as well, but with a groan.
Ugh, another group mate?
No, he's a group supervisor. He's also friends with my mom. And if you were still wondering, a group is for people who have difficulty to deal with attitudes. Jeremy and Nate being in it makes a lot of sense, huh?
Shiloh spoke simply and finished his thoughts with a breezy shrug. Liz sighed loudly, and then she smiled ruefully at him. Hey, Shiloh, you certainly made yourself other people's problems since leaving.
Well, now you all know me better too.
Thanks for sharing. A small smirk appeared on her face as she watched Shiloh. You didn't fail to notice the hint of sarcasm in her voice. And thank you, Susan. Accompanied by a warm smile, Liz's tone was sincere.
I can keep hanging out with everyone too.
Sheepish, Colt rubbed his arm. Liz's smile stretched into a grin at that news.
Aw, thanks for sticking around.
Well then, what now? The three stared at each other in silence until Shiloh tentatively made a suggestion.
Would anyone want to build a sandcastle?
That sounds ideal. Your older sister began to truly relax again, and you were glad to see it. Glancing at Kobe nodded in agreement with Liz.
Yeah, I like that idea too.
It had been a long time since you last built a sandcastle together. You were already looking forward to burying your feet in the sand. Then, we're all agreed. Come on, gang, let's go play at the beach. The sun was far across the sky when the four of you trailed down from the park to the shore in comfortable silence. It was hard for you not to think about how familiar it all felt. You never thought the four of you would ever be here together again. It wasn't long before you were sitting on the wet ground, busily pushing as much sand as possible into a lump. You all worked together quietly, but every so often a chuckle would drift through because of the castle's lopsided development. At one point, Cope stretched his legs out completely and the incoming waves started reaching his toes. He initially was caught off guard and almost jumped into the castle, but ultimately he didn't resist the water. After that, the group worked with purpose to finish before the ocean could tear it all down, though even Liz still ended up taking a nice time to be particular about the castle's rudimentary design. Shiloh, of course, backed up all her plans. Cove was a discontent voice, wanting to keep things more laid back. Things got pretty boisterous. Being there and doing this with Cove, Liz, and Shiloh, it felt weirdly different, yet also weirdly the same.
So,
So, what happened with the amusement park? You were pretending not to know, weren't you?
Both you and your sister glanced at Shiloh, silently re-asking the question. Under the weight of all three of you taking a turn to ask about it, Shiloh finally gave in.
Well, I might have an idea of what he meant.
So,
The thing is, there's someone we're both familiar with, and she asked Jeremy to the amusement park one time. He accepted, but just complained about it, so I suggested that me and her go together. Jeremy also agreed that it'd be more fun to go around the park with me. That's what he meant when he said he was on my side. She still went with him, and now Jeremy's embarrassed to admit not that he was turned down, but that he was the preferred option then. It's hard to believe. Anyway, Jeremy could think that I'm mad I got passed over, but it doesn't matter if she said yes or no. All that counts is if she knows I'm totally there when she needs it, and she does.
Uh-huh. Sure, Sila, you're so reliable.
I know, right?
Okay. Thanks for telling us.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. Oh,
Smiling to yourself, you watched the three of them absorbed in the moment. It was nice, and you hoped everyone else was having just as much fun. It was sort of incredible you were able to have another evening like this in your life. And the feeling of odd serendipity wasn't only with Shiloh, you had also gotten a sort of closure with that old villain of the one summer long ago. Just like old times, the four of you stayed on the beach until night fell and the moon was high in the sky. Then the time had come to say goodbye. Shiloh needed to get back to his mom, and back to where his life truly was now. Before leaving the beach, Shiloh pulled you to the side and gave you his number just in case you wanted to keep in touch. Liz already had it, though he wanted to give it to you personally. You weren't expecting that, but it was comforting to know that this didn't have to be a permanent goodbye. The four of you walked up to the neighborhood street as one, tired smiles covering the familiar faces around you. The wind gently blew past the sand dragged behind you, and a hard-to-grasp feeling of contentment carried you through to the end of this road. It was a good night. After that, Shiloh disappeared from Sunset Bird once again. This time it wasn't heartbreaking or hard to understand. This time it was just another part of life. And it helped that Liz had her own phone and laptop and could easily check in on him time to time. That was nice too. Woof. I didn't think it was going to be that long.
Yeah.
Holy jeez. Alright, let's quit my game.
Nearly 4 hours.
Holy jeez. Good timing too. My friend did go live, but I didn't think the game was gonna. I thought it was just gonna be another short story, but not a long, dragged out one again. Ugh, my throat. Like. Alrighty. Alright. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for joining us today. As always, this has been another episode of Our Life Beginnings and Always. Next episode, whenever that might be, we will be finishing up with step 3. So, as usual, they're going to go welcome back the adorable white tiger himself, Aridoki. because I missed him so much. He has been away since for the holidays, and I hadn't seen him since. And I thought it'd be fun if we can go send him some support, because I'm sure he would really appreciate it.
Yep, let's give some support to the other White Ranger.
And of course, here's the raid message for you guys if you would like to join in. Oy, hey, I'm gonna be rusting my throat after tonight. Holy jeez.
Fair.
I think we both need a vocal break after that.
Yep.
But thank you everybody for joining us today. Again, please do support me on HelloFresh. I would really appreciate it. And also, you can find me on YouTube, Twitter, and you also check out my merch. And please do support me on HelloFresh as well. Thank you again for the support, guys. Until next time, I'm Susan, and from my boyfriend and I, thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
Take care.